Good evening. The Southborough Zoning Board of Appeals is going to open up. The first issue is, in case of an emergency, there's a fire exit, which is down these two stairs and out the back door, and the regulation is that everybody goes meets in the back of the parking lot. The other issue is with the first public hearing tonight, it is with the Bartolini Brothers Construction, which is my cousin Jackie. And I do not have a conflict of interest or anything with anything he does, but in consideration of the butters and the neighbors, as I did the last time, I am going to step down from it. And Tom, which is the assistant chairman, will take over the meeting tonight. So I'm going to turn it over to him. Okay? Thank you.
Oh, you do? Okay, gotcha. I got those two. Okay, gotcha. Do we want to read do we need to read the thing into the public hearing notice into the record? Okay, go ahead.
Bartolini Builders Incorporated, 4 Wyeth Circle, Southborough, Mass. The Board of Appeals of Town of Southborough will hold a public hearing in the Thomas J. McAuliffe Hearing Room of the Southborough Townhouse, 17 Common Street, on Wednesday, February 24th, 2016, at 7:30 p.m. with regard to the petition of 141-143 Southville Road and 251-253 Parkerville Road. The petitioner is seeking a special permit to construct 8 buildings consisting of 12 units, parentheses, 4 single and 4 duplex, end of parentheses, for elderly multifamily housing. Relief is requested pursuant to Section 174-8.2B9, multifamily dwellings within major residential development. A copy of the application may be reviewed at the office of the building department at the townhouse during normal business hours. Leo F. Bartolini, Jr., Chairman.
And Karen, I know we have 3 letters from butters we're going to read into the record at some point. Should we do that now, or should we wait until after the presentation? You do it? Okay, you want to do it now?
Yep. So the first letter is from Karen Bernhard, and she resides at 174 Southborough Road. I am requesting a copy of this letter to be on file for and to be read aloud for all to hear at this public hearing, due to this being temporarily out of state and unable to personally attend. We are Karen Bernhard and James Taro of 174 Southville Road, direct abutters to this proposed development. Thank you to the board and all attending for listening to our concerns in this matter, which are as follows. Number 1, the applicant is requesting a permit per section 174-8.2B9, which does not apply to what the developer is seeking approval on. We request the applicant to reapply under Southborough Zoning Law 174-13.2, number 1, requiring construction of 8 or more dwelling units to apply for a special permit as a major residential development, which rightfully so, for a 12-unit project, is more thorough process to assure due diligence by boards and developers. Number 2, as no affordable housing options are being offered in the development proposal for seniors, there is no real or unusual benefit being offered to seniors not already available. Number 3, the neighborhood is plagued by flooding basement problems due to the extremely high water table in this area, as well as an active stream on both sides of these parcels that contribute to flooding and overflow from stormwaters that flow into these 2 streams, which flow to the Sudbury River, just 3 houses away down Parkerville Road. 12 more household septic systems adding to the water table have us and many neighbors concerned. Under Zoning Law 174-13-2, as requested in our item number 1, MC number 3 requires professional engineering and architectural studies that are warranted due to all the concerns surrounding these parcels adding a 12-unit development. Number 4, the village atmosphere of this neighborhood consists of many antique historic homes, such as an original classic wood train station, restored mill and manor houses, and our 100-plus-year-old single-tower church, all of which are residentially occupied, direct abutters, and totally surround these parcels on all 4 sides. A 12-unit development simply does not belong in this corner. This parcel, which once held 1 home, now, per current zoning law, allows for 4 single houses, which would be more conforming and appropriate to this neighborhood, which is multifamily or duplex-style house does not. Number 5, as Board Member Leo Bartolini excused himself from a vote on the previous request from Bartolini Builders, it would be requested and expected that he once again do so on this vote, as well as any other board members with family ties or conflict of interest. We thank you for your serious consideration to our concerns. The next memo is from Laura Bassett and Lawrence Garber of 153 Southville Road. Dear Southborough Zoning Board, we are unable to attend the February 24th meeting of the Zoning Board to express our opinions as abutters to the proposed Bartolini development at the corner of Parkerville Road and Southville Road because we will be out of the country. As such, we respectfully request that the following letter be read at the Zoning Board meeting and entered into the meeting record. We have lived at 153 Southville Road for 22 years after purchasing the 7-acre Fetic farm and have enjoyed the refreshingly royal character of our neighborhood. So have the deer, turkey, foxes, bluebird, and other creatures that have lived here. Although we are concerned about the scale of the roadside cluster, our biggest concern is the wooded area and field that constitute the approximately 2 acres of land on the western portion of this Bartolini project. It is demarcated by a stream and only accessible by a cart path. If the proposed project is allowed to proceed, we would request that this portion of the property be designated as open space and banned from future development in order to preserve this wildlife corridor and preserve some of the remaining open space in this area. Respectfully submitted, Laura Bassett and Lawrence Garber. Excuse me. The last letter is from Matthew Deo, 260 Parkerville Road. Respectfully, I ask that the following be added to the public record and read aloud, as I am unable to attend the meeting this evening due to family obligations. Bartolini Builders have been before the board many times seeking to maximize profit from property and developments. I don't blame the developer for trying so many times in so many places in town. It's a developer's right to do so and the board's responsibility to hear requests. But this resident of Southville and an immediate abutter object to the latest and also repeated attempt to trade quality for quantity. I believe the developer's last attempt on this site asked for 4 duplex units requiring a hardship variance per 174-82B because it would be too expensive to turn the 4 single properties into 4 duplex units 2 years down the road. Now this developer wants 8 buildings consisting of 4 single and 4 duplex units, also per 174-8.2B, but at this time, because some or all of it will be housing for the elderly. While he must be proud of having discovered this supposed loophole in our bylaws, the residents of this neighborhood and others in town have had similar experience with this and other developers' shenanigans are not proud. We are disappointed with this developer and annoyed that John Bartolini would seek to inflict such hardship on us and damage to the town. Hardship by the direct and measurable displacement of water table. The floods we already experience in our yards, driveways, and basements are a result of developments just north of Southville Road and off Parkerville Road. Many in my neighborhood fought these developments, and we all complained to the town that basements that had not flooded in 50 years are now flooding almost every year. Additional displacement of water table by basements and septics will cause more flooding. Additional hardscapes such as driveways will cause more runoff and less absorption of rainwater, leading to increased hardship beyond what we already endure, and all a direct result of developments beyond what can be balanced by the environment. Additional hardship will be caused by the noise and hazards of construction of so many buildings at a dangerous intersection. Heavy traffic during commuting hours already cause reckless drivers to take shortcuts east on Highland when the school buses delay Southville east of Parkerville. Long construction schedules required by twice the legal limit of construction will not add to the safety of my children. Have you ever seen a semi-tractor trailer turn onto Parkerville into the same lane as you oncoming school bus? How about one of the many propane delivery trucks who make it their mission to take this intersection without slowing down? This development will not be over and done in a few months. It will be long-lasting, danger eyesore from the very beginning and forever after it is completed. Damage to the town will be caused by loss of character to the neighborhood that is at the spine of the Southville Village, according to the 2008 master plan. Ironic that the same plan mentions that if an application is made, then the village could be listed in the National Registry of Historic Places, yet the plan's first objective of Southville calls for multifamily housing options and moderate density. Like applauding a long-standing public garden and then telling the DPW to put a shed in the middle of it also makes you wonder which developer helped edit the master plan. This resident suggests that the developer stick to the permitted 4 houses and potentially seek additional revenue by adding a dedicated nursery, children's camp, or daycare facility to the space. This fits the same 174.8B variance, provides additional revenue, but potentially with this added presence, the town might take enough notice to act on many safety recommendations in an independent report completed years that evaluate this dangerous intersection. If improvements could be made, then a variance in this scenario would limit the eyesore by providing the open space for a children's playground, improve the safety of the intersection, and benefit the Southville Village. When has a developer had such an obvious opportunity to improve a neighborhood? Thank you, Matthew Deo, 260 Parkerville Road.
Okay, great. Mr. Burnley, do you want to start out by making your presentation of your project?
Good evening. Peter Bemis, Engineering and Design Consultants.
No, I'm sorry, where are you from?
Peter Bemis, Engineering and Design Consultants.
Okay.
And I'm joined this evening by the Bartolini family, Jack and David, and their son, Tony and Michael. Our project is called Kane's Crossing at Lincoln Square, over 55 development. And for locus purposes, I'll identify the property and then go through the sheets on the drawings. Southville Road is here to the south. Parkerville Road is here to the east. To the north, we have residential neighborhoods. As you come up further, you would come to the school and Mass Pike. Coming here to the west, we have, again, residential properties, again, proceeding to the boundary with the town of Westborough. The site is bisected by a intermittent stream. It does flow from the north to the south through this portion of the site. And there's a wetland associated with that. There's a buffer zone associated with that as well. The 100-foot buffer zone extends to this position on the property. Our proposal is to develop this portion of the site. It's about 5 acres of land, about 2.5 in this position that would be developed, 2.5 that would be left in its natural state. Our application is under 174-9H, multifamily. I know there was something read into the record. I just want to be sure that you understand what my application was made under.
Yeah, we did register that.
Okay, very good. Just want to make sure you understood. We're about 3/4 of a mile from the train station. We are also in a central area to local services, post office, schools, churches, other retail centers are all within a mile of this site. So it has good location. There are sidewalks that service this section of Southborough along Southville Road and Parkerville Road. The proposal, again, you can see on this locus plan, is for a village green. We're clustering these homes around a center green. And there are 12 units, of which 4 units would be duplexes and 4 units would be singles. I'd like to walk through the plan set. I'll walk through the architecturals and then go through the zoning. So you received a set of drawings for this project, the cover sheet, an existing conditions plan, again identifying where that wetland area is and where our buffer zone is. The site is a mixture of open and woodland areas. The topography is generally flowing towards the intermittent brook, and then the intermittent brook is flowing to the south off locus to the Sudbury River to the south. A layout materials plan where we're identifying that we would have a paved driveway coming in from Parkerville Road, This roadway is being proposed opposite of the rear yards of the two abutting properties that are across the street from us on Parkerville Road. This is Highland Street in this position, and again, Southville Road. We're essentially putting our back to Southville Road, where the entrance coming off of Parkerville. You can see the units are clustered around that center green area, and the units have varying separations. For the most part, they're about 20 feet apart. This sheet shows the details for construction of this project. We have engineered the project, so there would be no doubt in anyone's mind that we wouldn't be able to handle both of our stormwater and our sewage disposal needs on site. For the septic system, that will be located in the center green area that we've proposed here. There is a collection system for that. There are a series of sewer manholes discharging to septic tanks, a pump chamber, and then to a leaching area here. For stormwater, every unit would have gutters and downspouts collecting stormwater, directing them to underground chamber systems. The street itself will have a catch basin system for collection of surface water, also discharging into chamber systems. All these chamber systems are then connected through a series of pipes coming to, again, another collection point at the back end of the site, discharging into another chamber system with overflow that would eventually reach the intermittent stream should it exceed a 100-year storm event. So this is all designed in order to be accommodated by a 100-year storm event, which is what our standard practice is for designing these systems. The last sheet of the set was a detail set, so it shows you what those chambers look like, what the connection pipes look like, what our sedimentation erosion control needs and methods would be, what the construction apron would look like, catch basin collection systems, water systems, and then treatment systems. We're treating the stormwater prior to discharge into our recharge systems. So again, a full set of documents in order to construct this project. I'm going to leave the last sheet up. This is basically what's going to result here is, again, our driveway system connecting all of these units, our houses, and the rest is going to be green space or open space. The exhibits here in illustration, this shows what the single unit is going to look like. From its front facade, you can see its garage doors and center entry door. Craftsman appearance, cottage appearance, depending on what your tastes are. Our duplex is basically that with two units side by side. From the zoning, excuse me. From the zoning bylaw, the multifamily housing for elderly is allowed by special permit per the Schedule of Use Regulations 174-8. Within this zoning district, this is an allowable use. It has been done some almost 200 times, I believe, at this point in the community. And there is still a need, and I believe a desire, for these types of units to be found in town. The Zoning Board of Appeals can grant a special permit for elderly housing after consideration of the following criteria. No development shall exceed the average per site of maximum of 3 units. In the case of this property, we are 4.8 acres. We were allowed 13 units. It was determined that 12 units were available based upon the housing at the end of last year. We have a 12-unit project presented to you this evening. To the greatest extent possible, the development should afford the needs of residents in varying economic levels. We believe that this project in this location would position itself with what would be a modest cost home in the town of Southborough. There are other projects in town that are at a much higher price point. We believe that we are meeting a need for people who are looking to downsize within Southborough and stay in Southborough. The units shall have an exterior design that is consistent with the styles of the surrounding residential neighborhoods. Again, I would say that these homes will have that character. They are cottage craftsman style units. Whenever possible, pedestrian connections to local services should be incorporated into the site design to lessen automobile dependency. Again, with the sidewalks located here within 3/4 of a mile of the train station, with retail centers and other uses in the immediate area, I don't believe that there would have to be a full dependency on automobiles at this location. It is a good spot to have this type of project. The plan shall maximize the preservation of natural features. Again, we're keeping our development to this portion of the site. There is an equal land area that would remain undeveloped across the back to maintain a natural corridor or habitat. The proposed development needs to satisfy the provisions of a special permit. So those are pertaining to, let me see here. So that pertains to location. So the similar uses, this is a residential section of Southborough. These are residential uses that are comparable. We have lot sizes that have the similar density. This was a Residence Zone C area, which would have been 15,000 square foot land area. You'll find abutting properties here that run sometimes 6,000, 7,000 square feet to 10, 15, or 20, the Res B requirement now. Each of these units on a per acre basis for density were about 0.4 acres or 17,000 square feet. So it's very comparable to what you already have in this section of town. The next question would be, is there adequate water or drainage and no environmental impact? Again, with this proposal, we are going to have an activity that will extend into the buffer zone, but we would not alter any wetland areas. We would also be able to have a preservation zone along the wetland resource area that's in accordance with the local Southborough conservation requirements. And then for drainage, again, we have designed this on a 100-year storm event for the complete development of the project. The activity mix, the residential proposal needs to serve the local residents. This population within Southborough, if you look at the demographics, is an aging population. That's available through studies that are done by the Regional Planning Association. And this type of housing stock is one that is in need. There are people who want to stay in town and need a residence to locate into that is smaller and more affordable as they get to retirement age. Visual consequence, scenic views from public ways. In the case of this project, we will have a view shed that's being protected along Parkerville Road. And then in the case of Southville Road, which is a fairly heavily traveled intermediate connector road, we basically have no connection with it at this point here, so we are preserving that space. The domestic scale of the units. These units, again, on scale, are comparable. Homes in this area tend to be around 2,000 square feet, and our duplex unit basically is on the order of that magnitude, if you will. Access. We're not supposed to increase traffic by more than 10%. Again, these are both intermediate connector roads. Southville Road connecting Westboro to Ashland, Parkerville Road bringing traffic to the north. Our 12 units are not going to increase traffic along those roadways anywhere near 10%. And development rate. This housing will not tax our school system. There's no new infrastructure required for it. There is water on Southville Road and Parkerville Road. We'll have on-site sewage disposal, and we have our on-site stormwater properly addressed. The assessor did do an assessment. That was not read into the record. I believe the tax benefit from this would be on the order of around $90,000 per year, with very little obligation coming from it for schools for certain, but for other service areas. So there should be a fairly sizable gain for the community. And the last provision is G. The cumulative number of units under this section shall not exceed 7%. So there was a calculation done, again, that may have been in your packet, but the assessor, prior to us getting this application before you, did weigh in on that, and there are 12 units available. So we are within the threshold that the community can have, and we'll still meet the 7% outlined here. And so the last provision is item number 2. The granting of the special permit by the Zoning Board of Appeals for multifamily housing for the elderly does not relieve the applicant from receiving all other applicable approvals. We do need to go to conservation. We will need an order of conditions for this project. We'll also need a stormwater management permit. We acknowledge that. We know we'll get that. Board of Health, we need to get our sewage disposal system approved. Again, we've already done soil testing on this project with the Board of Health witnessing those tests. So we do know that we would be submitting that to them, and we have given you the layout of the design that we would actually submit to them in this plan. The site plan approval, the planning board has the authority for that. So we would have to go through site plan review with the planning board for this project. So the purpose of our presentation to you this evening is for the use. The Zoning Board of Appeals has control over that aspect of the project. You control whether we can have this use at this location. I would maintain to you that the use is suitable for this site. Our density is an allowable use. We've proven that our density does work. We provided you with a detailed stormwater calculation package that supported this design. And the last I would close with the Kane Crossing. I want you to know where that came from. We wanted you to be aware that the property was owned by the Kane family. This project is named for Sergeant Frank Kane, as a deceased police officer in the community. He lived at 141 Southville Road. And the Lincoln Square component, so it's Kane's Crossing at Lincoln Square. I know when I first moved here, there used to be an island in Parkerville Road, and there was a plaque there. I never knew what it said, so I'm taking it on face value that it did refer to Dr. Lincoln, who used to live, I believe, in the home at the corner of Highland and Parkerville. I tried to find that record today and was not successful, and I even chased the deed back on that home to the late 1800s, and it didn't come up yet, so I'm not sure how old Dr. Lincoln was, but he must have been pretty old. So that's about the extent of that. So that's it. I would be happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you very much.
I'll start with a couple of questions just to kick it off, if that's okay with you guys.
Sure, go ahead.
I'm sorry, what was your last name again, Mr.? Demas?
Bemis.
Bemis, Mr. Bemis, okay. Mr. Bemis, I want to go back quickly to, you mentioned towards the end, the assessor's records regarding the 7%. The rule is that the total number of multifamily elderly housing units approved since 1998 cannot exceed 7% of the total number of single-family residences at the beginning of 2016. So I know you kind of mentioned in passing, but do you have any? I looked at the assessor's letter that didn't really go into that. Is there other evidence that you have that? I just want to know.
There was at some point. Do I have it with me this evening? I do not. I presume that you had it in your packet, because I did see something to that effect. Do you have it?
I don't have it. Tom, it was given to the zoning officer, the building inspector, and that's where he issued the letter.
Use the microphone check.
Tom, it was given to the, all the documents for this were given to the building inspector, the zoning officer, and that's when he determined that 12 units in fact were available, and we met him. So it was done, this came about, I went to the planner, and the planner said this would be a great project for this. It was also, the town of Southborough had hired someone to go around, to do our housing needs, and one of the fastest growing types of age group in this town is over 55. So that's how it fitted the need. the planner and the assessor went back and forth, and then finally gave the number to the building inspector, the zoning officer, and he wrote the letter saying that we need to go to ZBA. So
Gotcha.
that's been vetted and done.
Can we, I mean, at some point, I think we should just get it, because I think one of our criteria that we're supposed to be evaluating is just that. So I think we probably need to have a little bit more than that the applicant.
I wouldn't be here if this was,
I think we need more than that too. But we can, I'm sure we can produce it at some point. Mr. Stivers, you want to?
Wait, excuse me, you have to use the microphone.
That number is actually on the, I'm Sam Stivers, 7 Presidential Drive, member of the advisory committee, but speaking as an individual resident. That number is on the planning board website, as a matter of fact. And I actually took a look at it, and in fact, there's a math error in that number, and my math shows that this, at best, is, there's a capacity for 8 additional units at this point. And if you do it the way the town planner was actually doing it semi-incorrectly, that number comes out to be 5. But if you do it right, based on the planning board's data on their website, the number is 8. So you might want to check that before proceeding.
Well, you know, why don't we table this particular issue for now? I mean, I guess I'll treat Mr. Stivers' comment as a comment from the public. So let's table it. I think, do you want to have more to add to
All I
that?
wanted to say is it was calculated. We thought we had documentation to that effect.
Right.
I know the planner and the assessor were going back and
Okay.
forth with it
No, and I'm
in
not
conjunction with the
suggesting I don't
building
believe you. I
department.
just
So,
think that
so
as part of our
it
criteria,
has to be that
you have to
number.
check that off,
I'm good with
and I
that.
think we probably need to have more than that the applicant says it's so. Okay. Then the other, a couple of other questions I had is on, you know, the criteria that says that the development is, to the greatest extent possible, the language says, will offer to provide for the needs of Southborough residents of varying economic levels. So is there a proposal to put affordability restrictions on these, or is it simply that this type of housing will be cheaper than other types of housing in Southborough?
Honestly, I brought this to my client's attention today because I wondered how previous projects had done that, because there are a number of them in town, and none of them have been they've all been like market-driven. None of them have set aside an area. None of them, like the more expensive one, if you will, in the community, doesn't have a lower value unit and an upper value unit. They were all at one price point. And that's what I have found in my research on this, that there weren't some sort of varying levels. So I too wanted to know how I was going to address this evening.
Okay.
So that's the one that I'd have to say that what we're doing is by market-driven analysis, is that being at this location and what our density is going to be with this project, these will be a more modest-priced unit for this community. So we believe it will be more attractive for someone who lives in the community now
Right.
to be able to afford it.
So it'll be affordable to one economic level that can afford that level of house.
That's right. That's
It
right.
won't be available to economic levels who can't afford
Not
that
necessarily someone who wouldn't be able to afford it, and then someone who obviously could make the decision whether they found it attractive and a good price point for them. So
Okay. And then, one of the other, there's been a lot of talk and I know this came up the last time too, when Mr. Burnley was before us with his last project. A lot of the neighbors, or I'm sure they're going to raise this later, but they've raised the issue of the water table. And here's where I reach my limit. I don't understand how the water table interacts with the introduction of the septic system for 12 units and the drainage. Can you just, and I don't presume to know the answer. I'm just asking if you could explain what the relationship, what's the nexus between those two factors.
Again, we're citing our leaching area in this zone of the site, and there is a higher groundwater table here.
Right.
We're not disagreeing with that, but we are working within the limits of what our project will support, and we are containing all of our stormwater on our site. We're managing it properly under the guidance of what the good engineering principles are. Some of these folks who have water problems have constructed their dwellings in the water table. Some of them are older homes, and they don't have adequate provisions associated with them. But in the case of this project, we're not introducing any new water source here. We are paving it, and we are creating a faster time, if you will, for the water to come off the surface. So if you took the open field that was here today and you take the precipitation that's come down, has to be absorbed through the ground. So in the case of this paved surface, it's going to come off the surface faster. That's the issue. What we do is we're going to collect it, and then we're going to let it filter back into the ground again. And we've accommodated that on site. I'm not taking it and discharging it so it will run off. So I'm containing it on my site. I'm giving it more residence time, if you will.
So the impervious surfaces exacerbate the water table drain, but you manage the water flow from the
Right,
impervious
so,
surfaces.
so on our site, we manage it,
Okay.
but in the case of some of these other properties, we really can't change the
Okay.
characteristics of their property. They're in the water table, and that's their issue, is that they were constructed in the water table, and they have poor drainage, and they get this condition.
So the water that would go to your site, even if you hadn't managed it, it wouldn't exacerbate the problem on anyone else's
Right.
site.
In other words, the
would it?
same water that's here today,
Okay.
just it gets absorbed, it goes through the system. Yes, it gets there quicker, but then we put these systems in to slow it back down again.
And how about septic? Can you just dumb it down for me? What's a water table have on the septic? Is the septics need more mounding or something like that?
There'd be a mounding effect as a result of that, but again, we're building this in accordance with the requirements for the system, and it's built up so that there's area for that water to then filter down through the ground and mound at that location, but then disperse. So there is an initial spike within that zone here,
Right.
but then that's going to transfer out and reach its natural static level.
Okay, gotcha. And then two other quick questions. Actually, maybe just one more question for me at the time being. You mentioned that the bylaw criteria is that the project cannot increase traffic by more than 10%.
It does state that in the bylaw.
So how do you
Okay.
know that it won't?
Well, if I take my 12 units
Yeah.
and my 2 bedrooms per unit and take my traffic count, and then I look at a roadway that's carrying, 10,000, 15,000 cars per day, which is Southville
What
Road.
about Parkerville Road?
Parkerville, it's not going to be that number, but it's
Okay.
going to be a fairly high number because it's, again, a connector road.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
connecting Route 9
It's gonna be-
it's going to be fairly high, and you got a school up there. We're not going to come
Consequential,
anywhere
okay.
near it. We didn't do a traffic study because we just didn't feel like we needed
Close
it for
enough.
this.
To warn it, okay.
It's pretty straightforward. So
That's
thank
all
you.
I have for the time being. If you want to go down. David, you want to start? Go next?
Yep, just to piggyback some of the comments about the water runoff that Tom had brought up, I'm assuming that the way the proposed system will work is the water will flow as it lands and gets trapped, it'll flow away from Parkerville Road towards the back end of the property at some point, right? It'll get initially caught and then kind of flowed towards the back, towards that open space area, and then eventually leach into that runoff stream that you have. Is that the plan?
That's right. So again, I have a collection point here for surface water, I have a collection point here for surface water, and then I have collection points on every one of these units tied in. So all these chambers come across, they tie in, they come into one more chamber system. Anything that might filter through that would then overflow out, surface flow, to the intermittent stream.
Right.
And then transfer down.
Yeah, I mean, because I have talked to a few of the neighbors, and of course, that's, they don't necessarily mind the development, but I think they're terrorized over the fact that they could have a water issue. But I think that the engineering that's done on this site is so much better than what's naturally there now, where the water just sort of flows and there's no way to trap it, and water's kind of spilling onto Parkerville Road or near Parkerville Road and pooling. This way, it's kind of engineered to flow to an area that naturally can take it away.
Right.
Right now, it doesn't really do that.
That's right.
Okay. All right, just a couple questions. The little road that goes in there, that's the little, I guess the cul-de-sac or whatever, that little road that feeds all these homes, is that suitable for, let's say, UPS trucks, things like that? My fear is that the truck would have to park on Parkerville Road and walk in, or I just want to make sure that it has the access for both fire and...
Exactly, that's what I was going to say, is that fire apparatus, everything is designed so that it can transfer through here and flow through. This is not just for automobiles.
What kind of utilities are on this property? Like, is there natural gas? Natural gas on the site?
I don't believe there's natural gas at this end. It
So is
does,
this
it
gonna be oil,
stops.
heat?
So I would think it'd be propane
Oh,
in all
propane?
likelihood, yeah.
Okay, and,
And so there's water here in Parkerville and Southville. You know, we would have a hydrant on site for fire suppression. So there's water. The power grid obviously would come in underground, as would cable, telephone.
so if you
Internet.
have propane, you're gonna bury the tanks, is that the plan? Or,
I would assume so. I mean, otherwise it would be oil.
grab the mic, just in case.
Right now, where oil is so cheap,
Yes,
oil may be a better viable market, so we don't know.
you haven't decided yet.
We haven't decided yet. But if we use propane, they'd be tanks and they would be buried.
Right, okay.
Find it. If you send it to me now, it'll be.
For the construction, vinyl siding, clapboard, vinyl siding? Okay,
These have to be maintenance-free
I
for
understand.
that market.
Presently, what's the soil condition on this property? Is it clay? Is that the problem there? Is it?
No, there's actually sand and gravels through most of this site. There are some areas, however, where there are some very dense sands, and someone might dig into it and say it's clay, because it's very, very fine, and it does hold water. I mean, that's part of the issue. But there are sands and gravels. We did all of our testing with the Board of Health on site.
It's very good.
And are these units going to have basements?
Yes.
Okay. The only other question I have, is I think that the important aspect, particularly where it faces Parkerville Road, is I would like to see a little bit more discussion about the screening. And probably some other members may bring it up too. I'd like to see a little bit more screening. I don't know if you're gonna go with natural. We haven't really discussed the type of screen that you're gonna use, particularly on that Parkerville Road side, where it faces, some of the closer homes across the street.
As far as screening, I wasn't prepared to discuss that this evening. That's something that would be done with planning board and site plan review. We knew that.
Okay.
I would have no problem with you conditioning it on that, because that's our intent, is we do anticipate putting
Yeah, I
in
would-
some significant screening here.
Okay.
We
David-
weren't trying to do that at this juncture.
I understand. I just wanted to
David,
go on the record.
we tried to see as many neighbors as we could here, and we walked around one very cold weekend. But some people asked us for screening, and we don't have a problem with that. We told them we do it.
Okay, I have no more questions.
One of the abutters in their comments raised an issue about whether you as the applicant should be instead seeking a special permit for major residential development, because it's seeking the construction of 8 or more units. And I was wondering if you could address that. Do you believe that you should be, you are seeking to construct 8 or more units, so could you just address the abutter's comment and explain why it's okay to file for a special permit just seeking the elderly housing, but not also going through the application for a special permit for major residential
We are
development?
doing this exactly the same way as the last 190 units have been done through this ZBA. So that's the first thing I would say. The second thing is that since it's elderly housing, we have filed for elderly housing. Now,
I'm sorry, I didn't
since
hear.
it's elderly housing, we have filed under elderly housing. So, but this board, the ZBA, has issued every permit this way. So that you've already done, I think, around 190 or 100, close to 200 of these. And you've all done it this way, through this type of permit. I don't know, Peter, you can speak.
Yeah,
about
no,
this.
what I was going to say is that that's why I deliberately said that's the section we filed under. The building inspector made reference to a section regarding major residential development. That is not what is required for this project. There is a definition above it, which is what he should have used, which I'm not sure how all the other projects got approved if it's going to become an issue, because if you read what it says, it talks about public and private entities owning the elderly housing units. That's basically what the other projects were approved under. None of them were approved under major residential development after the fact by the planning board.
Andrew,
So
I
we're
had the
fol-
same, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Is that we're following the procedures that others have followed in the past.
I mean, that doesn't do it for me, but my thought on it is, look, we're a board, we just rule on whatever application's before us. They put an application under this bylaw, we're gonna apply this bylaw criteria. If the building inspector thinks that's right, he'll give them the building permit. If he doesn't think it's right, then he'll make them go apply for another permit. But for us, we can only rule on what's before us, and what's before us is the application under this bylaw.
Well, I'm comfortable with that as well, because that's what I talked with Mark about today, was that this is our application, this is the section we filed under, that's what it's for. I also did find the email that I got from Jennifer Burney regarding the number of units, and I was gonna try to send it to you so that you could possibly print it out, so the board would have it. It does state the number of units that we're filing for this evening. So I just want you to know we do have that, and I will provide it to you.
Andrew, any more questions from your end?
No.
Okay. Paul?
Sure, a few comments, few questions. I think the flooding issue, the drainage issue, septic is pretty well engineered and displayed. You mentioned it is a high water table, so it will be a raised, I guess, septic field.
Yes, it is.
Not that it makes too much of a difference, but how raised? How is it?
That was going to be one of my questions.
Yeah,
Are you going to require a variance on the septic?
No.
No, it's
No,
all.
everything will comply.
Okay.
Yep. I was just saying, it's everything straight compliance. I just don't want to misrepresent the number, because it's going to vary across the site. But it is a fill. I'll just say it's a fill system, and it complies. We don't have to ask for any waivers.
Okay. What, I mean, I don't know if I'm a little confused or if it matters at all, but are these, so that's a shared septic field for all the units?
This would be condominium form of ownership.
That's what I was
for
gonna
this
ask. So this is
project.
gonna be condominiumized.
Condominium.
Okay, I was gonna ask how that's gonna be maintained and, so
No.
this is, okay, well, that
Everything will
answers.
be done through a homeowners association. These are all condominiums.
So there'll be an HOA and a, okay,
Right.
gotcha. I do like I guess, leaving relatively half of the parcel as open space. I don't think you can really get to it or access it
Yeah.
anyways, but
You give a choice.
be that as it may, it's nice to see, a good amount of land being preserved. The pricing and the affordability, that was brought up some, and I'm sort of guessing. I like the style and design of the houses or what have you. They're smaller, so I would assume that just based on kind of size and design, and that it would be somewhat on the relatively affordable end of the spectrum for the town of Southborough.
Again, this is in the conceptual stages, but we are planning to be in the $400,000 range. The average house in the town of Southborough right now is $620,000. The average resale of condominiums, we don't have any, but I was told by my broker today that that's in the vicinity of $600,000. So we would be
That's what I'm
15
saying.
to
So
20%
based on what I'm
less.
looking at, I was assuming, that's what I'm assuming anyway. So I think that's good, I guess. I agree with your traffic assessment. I don't see where this would be a significant impact on, on traffic based on 12 units. Also, I guess all the various boards, the planning board's gonna do their site plan approval, whatever. Board of Health is making, is gonna be determining the septic, so that's not really for us to determine. So I guess it looks like an allowable use to me, and, again, nice to have it clustered and then keep open space, so, it seems appropriate to me.
I think almost all the questions have been asked at this point. Like I said, on the septic, the stormwater, I've done it myself. Things are over-designed now. It's a 100-year storm. As long as you were able to make it all work and it meets the regs, then I think it's probably going to be a net benefit, because I've been through it. It's a lot. the one thing would be that 17% rule, and other than that, I'm all set.
Why don't we open it up to the members of the public to comment? I think the basic process should be if you could come up and grab a microphone, or do we have microphones elsewhere? If you come up and use, is there one at the podium?
You can pull those out.
Do like open mic night, karaoke.
Okay, so anyone from the public is invited to go up and speak at the podium or come up and speak at one of these microphones up front.
I can't really see the podium from that angle, so I don't know, maybe.
Same way to move that out.
Move the podium over.
Oh, okay. Sorry, you want me to make an announcement? We have two other matters on for tonight. They're still on for this evening. This is going a little long, so we're going to get to the other two matters once this application completes. Go ahead, Mr. Stivers.
Sam Stivers again. Just to clarify, I think to be particular about the math issue relative to the planning board's website data, the former town planner actually counted in her calculation of the 7%, the 2-family, 3-family, 4-family houses. So if you look at the total that she did, she added up everything to get the total and took 7% of that, where the bylaw clearly states that the 7% is figured based on single-family units. And so if you take the single-family number, you wind up with a moderately lower number, and in fact, looks like she actually didn't double the number of two. Their assessor has a category for 2 single-family units on 1 lot, and so my theory is that ought to count as 2 single-family units in the total. She actually counted those as 1 unit, so she undercounted by that one, but then she added in the 2-family, 3-family, 4-family, et cetera, on top of that to get an inflated total. And if you take 7% of the inflated total, you wind up with 8 units as the cap for this particular thing. So maybe the building inspector or assessor has different data, but this is the latest that was available, at least publicly, on the town website. So I would urge you to take a close look at that and confirm that the number is, because obviously if you issue a permit based on a false assumption, that opens the door wide to an appeal that would, I think, be a slam dunk for somebody if the math is wrong. So please check.
So thank you, Mr. Stivers. Any other comment?
I have one.
Want to come up to here or the podium?
I live at 176 Southville Road, which is across the street.
Can you state your name for the
Anthony Miller.
Anthony Miller?
One-
Okay.
Yep. So 2 concerns I have. One is I built my house about 30 years ago. When I had it engineered, the design and the foundation to sit 2 feet out of the ground, to keep me above the water table. I put it 4 feet above the ground. 10 years ago, I had to put a septic sub pump in because now I have water. They've been building down the street from me years ago. I can't believe this is not going to affect that. I just can't believe that, because all the building down the street has affected it. I was 2 feet out of the ground more than I should have been, and now I'm running the sub pump. So it's coming from somewhere. The other problem I have is I really don't want to look at the back of these houses. My house faces that road. So those are the only 2 considerations I'd like.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Any other comment?
My name is Gary Bertone. I live at 3 Blade Court. As far as Mr. Eagle's comment that the water is going to be well controlled, you pretty much have 2.5 acres of very permeable soil now that is holding the water. We're not getting water runoff from that lot. It's from all of the lots. Now, effectively, all of that water is going to be directed towards the back, towards the stream. I live downstream from that. I'm one of 4 or 5 houses. I don't have flooding problems now, but it's real close. Is this going to be the one thing that puts me over the edge? That water is not going to sit in that basin very long. The idea is to get it into the stream and out. I'm downstream. It has serious impact on me. If he had a retention pond on site that held that water and slowly bled it in, that's probably more useful, but that septic system in the middle, it's not there to absorb any of the water. That's going to have all the surface runoff. So these 100-year storms, these 50-year storms have big impact on us. They're not,
But just so you know, they do have what's tantamount to a detention pond. They have, I understand they're gonna be underground, but they're underground detention facilities that will essentially hold the water as a detention pond would. And then control the rate that it bleeds into the stream. I think that it's serving the same
okay,
function.
it's just, but he made the statement that it's gonna be better than what's there now.
Well, it's just
Open
gonna
land is
manage,
better.
the idea is to manage the water as it's coming off. It won't just sort of flow like a river just straight onto you.
But it doesn't flow like a river off of that lot now. It's pretty good now.
No, and that was sort of my comment. I've been,
Yeah.
and I apologize if that was taken the wrong way, but these systems basically are, the intent is and the rules are, and it's engineered, and they have all kinds of these fancy models that they have to run, is to make sure in a 100-year storm that not one additional drop comes off this property and goes onto anybody else's property, pre and post development. So that's where you have, as Tom mentioned, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I mean, you got huge amounts of plastic contraptions going underneath that to act as that huge retention pond to make, to solve that problem. I'm assuming I got that right if the engineer, yeah.
Okay.
But I get your concern. I'm recognizing your concern as well.
I guess my other question would also be, how much of the total acreage is considered to be wetlands at this point? And if it's, after you subtract out the wetlands, that's when you get your bedroom requirement. So the question is whether or not 24 bedrooms is the right amount, or is it too many, or is it?
That's a good question, the bedrooms, yeah.
That is in the calculation. It's on the front sheet. We identified the wetland area. It's 3,100 square feet in this zone. We got 11,236 in this zone, and 1,566 in this zone. So if you take the upland area, it's 4.4. So again, with the multiplier, it's 3 times that, so we're still 12. We were always north of 12.
Right.
It's just we're less north now.
Do you get that? Let me translate it.
Yeah,
that
he's
into
got
English.
4.3 acres. That's
Yeah.
that's enough for the 24 bedrooms.
And they get because they're doing a cluster, they get a 20% wetland of the wetlands as a bonus that gets added to
Okay,
the
yep.
acreage. So I think the numbers are right. Although we talked about the units, but you didn't. I don't know that we've established how many bedrooms. I know the number of bedrooms I calculated as permissible under that calculation, something like 26 or 27 bedrooms.
Yeah, we weren't
How many
that
bedrooms
high.
are in the project?
We were doing 2 bedrooms on a unit.
They're all
so-
2 bedrooms per unit, 24 total?
Right.
Okay.
And the only other thing I have is, so the back 2.5 acres or so is pretty much either inaccessible or unbuildable. So that really puts 12 houses on a very dense area. Yeah, you can split it and say that it's 11,000 or 14,000 square feet per house, but it's really not. It's 7,000 square feet per house or so. I'm not sure anywhere else in the Southville area do we see that density of housing, and that's quite high.
I think the policy built into this bylaw is actually to encourage that, because they're trying to preserve open space. So, I mean, they're trying to encourage the clustering of houses rather than 12 houses spread over 5 acres.
It's open land that he couldn't build on
Nah.
anyways.
Right, in this case, it's
Factored in.
a crazy shaped parcel.
Yeah.
And that's, so
So it's very advantageous for the builder.
Yeah, they're
not
taking
very
advantage of-
advantageous for the community, so
Yeah.
that's my
Fair
concern
enough,
there.
yeah.
Thank you.
Any other comments? So, any other? Mr. Morris? Sure.
Good evening, Don Morris, Planning Board. I just, I think the questions here tonight were excellent. Traffic, drainage, septic, parking, utilities, oil, propane, vinyl siding, basements, landscaping. And I think that you needed to ask those questions so that you could understand the project. Building inspector's letter, and I actually sat with him because I didn't understand exactly why this was before the ZBA tonight. Because when you read
section 174-8.2, there are permitted uses, and then there are uses by special permit. Now, 174-8.2 is the residential A district, and this project's in the RB district. So and his letter refers to 174-8.2, which is the residential A district. And then within that, and B9, and 9 states, other multifamily dwellings if within a major residential development. Then it says, note, special permit from the planning board. So when I went over this with the building inspector, he, and I could have this wrong, but I spent some time with him, that he felt that there were 2 special permits required. One from the ZBA, well, one from the planning board under the multifamily major residential development, if the planning board felt that that was applicable. And we're not at that point yet, although if you read the zoning code, 174-13.2, major residential development, it states, major residential development, that is, the creation of 8 or more lots or construction of 8 or more dwelling units within an 8-year period from or on a property or set of contiguous properties in common ownership as of January 1st, 1986. And then there's other multiple pages of text here regarding the major residential development, which I think may help you. So you've got 174-8.2B9, residential A district, and the 9 says the special permit from the planning board. So I asked the building inspector, what special permit then would the ZBA be being asked to grant? And from what I understood was, you're being asked if this type of project is eligible for a special permit in the residential B district. If you say that, if you look at it and say that it's not subject to a special permit in the RB district, and you vote that, then it's not allowed. If you say that it is eligible for a special permit in the residential B district, and you vote that it is allowed, I'm not aware of any conditions that you would put on that. I mean, we're only just hearing from this. Maybe there are some conditions of that special permit. But based on my discussion with the building inspector, it's kind of a yes or no question that's being asked of the ZBA. Is it subject to a special permit? Is it in the RB district? And if it is, is this project, do the merits of the project cause you to grant that special permit?
Here's the way I'm looking at it, Don. It goes back to what we were saying before. You know, if an applicant goes to the building inspector and says, I want to build this house, and the building inspector says, you have to get a special permit for, you know, they say you have to get a variance for a height, you know, restriction or something like that from the ZBA. And instead of giving us an application for a height variance, they give us an application for a special permit for a multifamily elderly housing. We have to pass on whatever the application the applicant submits to us. So, you know, in my view, if we grant this tonight, does that mean we're usurping any other permits that the applicant may need? I don't think so. So if the building inspector thinks that they need a major site plan review or another special permit under this other section, I think that's a building inspector's job to make that determination. So if Mr. Bartolini goes to the building inspectors and says, hey, give me my building inspector, I got a multifamily special permit from the ZBA, he's gonna say, I'm not gonna give you a building permit because you didn't get the special permit from the planning board under, you know, 174 3.2. So that's their choice of what application they elected to file for. We're the right board to rule on this particular permit that they filed for, and I think that's all we're doing tonight. You know, whether or not that's sufficient for the project is, you know, is their hunt and the building inspector's hunt.
I brought up these items because it just didn't seem clear to me that all 5 of you understood exactly what special permit you're being asked to grant, and then if you do, then to what extent can you attach any conditions?
I don't think there's any reason we can't attach conditions. I mean, we
So
can.
that sounds like what the building inspector indicated, that it's basically a yes or a no.
His letter suggested that we couldn't impose conditions?
No, I think that some of the comments tonight here mentioned something about conditions. Possible conditions.
Yeah, I mean, I know the applicant suggested they'd be open to conditions, and I don't think we're under the impression that we're not allowed to impose conditions. I don't know that any have been suggested so far, and we're open to suggestions on, if people think.
Wait, excuse me. You should really grab a mic. You should
grab a mic.
Grab a mic.
I believe you implied that the planning board would be the one to put conditions on there, and that we weren't in a position to talk about any conditions here. So if this doesn't go before the planning board, because there's no need to, the building inspector says it's good to go, then there are no conditions. So either you can or you can't put conditions on. I'm not sure.
Well, could our
I'm
condition
under-
be going forward to the planning
I'm under
board?
the impression this has to go to the planning board. This
Yeah.
isn't,
Yeah.
we're not,
But, I mean, if that's the condition, that's the
I
condition.
don't know.
but-
I don't know
oh.
the answer. All I know is the application before us, applying these we're gonna apply these criteria, and we can impose conditions that I believe relate to these criteria. I can't tell you whether or not they have
Okay.
to go to the planning board as
Right,
well.
so we're talking about, fencing or
Screening.
topiary,
Yeah,
So,
I mean, look, screening is part of the criteria here. I mean, it is part of the criteria for this permit, is that they're supposed to design the site in an attempt to preserve the natural vegetation to the extent possible, to create buffers between abutting properties. So that is part of the criteria here, and that's something if people want to speak to it and want to propose a condition for us to adopt, we'll certainly consider
because I
that.
thought you were deferring that to the planning board, that's all. That's,
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I just want to reiterate one point. I did, in my presentation, did reference this section. I'm going to just state it again for the record, because what Mr. Morris was raising is important for you to understand that this is how the section reads. It says, "The granting of a special permit by the Zoning Board of Appeals for multifamily housing for the elderly does not relieve the applicant
understand.
from receiving all other applicable approvals, including," and I want to state these if you don't mind, "including Conservation Commission, Board of Health, and site plan approval from the Planning Board," and in parentheses, it references 17410. Not a special permit from the planning board, but site plan review from the planning board. 17410 is site plan review. And that's why there's this contradiction between the bylaw. And I know we tried to recodify, Mr. Morris, and I would love to try to do that again, because we really need to. There are contradictions in the bylaw. This
Right.
is another one of those contradictions. When you read the other section that refers you back to the special permit uses under the RA and RB section, it's not stated properly, because in this section, which is specifically for elderly housing, you're in 174-9H. That's the section we applied under. These are the conditions that have to be followed. This is the last one. The last one tells you, you go to planning board, 17410, site plan review, not special permit. And I had that discussion with Mr. Robideau today. And that was my point to him, was that it wasn't for me to write his letter. He had to write his letter. That's what he wrote in it.
Right.
And I have no problem with what he stated, and he said the same thing to me. He said, if you don't have to go there, you don't have to go there. But I know I have to come before you this evening. I know I have to vet this process through your board for 174-9H. And that's what my application was for, specifically. nothing else.
Right.
That's all I
guess
wanna
the
get-
way I view it is, to the extent there's any inconsistency in the bylaw,
No.
it's not for us to resolve.
We
It's
weren't
for the building
asking you for
inspector,
that.
You know, if you guys think you're done here once you get this, and you think you should,
That's
that entitles you to a building permit, you know, that's your hunt with the building inspector.
Well, I think the applicant is stating that he intends to go to the planning board.
Not for
site-
special
for
permit.
site- but not for special
No,
permit,
I
for
know,
site
but for
plan
site
review.
plan
Just
review.
like, and what I want to say, also state for the record, just like the 190 some odd units before me did, exactly the same process. There's not a new one today.
No, I get it. I think, okay, so when we started to touch on specifics on the site where you guys really weren't prepared to address, because obviously you were preparing to go to the planning board to talk to
Right.
them about the specifics
Screening.
on the screening and the maybe the heights of the buildings and the setbacks and some of the other issues that you maybe some of the neighbors are concerned about.
Right, yeah, the one
Right.
abutter who lived across the street.
Right.
I would echo his concerns. I don't want him to look at the rear of a building.
Absolutely, and I think you made a
He's-
great point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He is not going to look at the rear of our building.
Okay.
He's going to look at a screening. I see a green corridor going down Southville Road. That's what he's going to see. So,
So I guess my suggestion is that
Well, you want to keep, let's open it up to any other further comment. I thought we would close the hearing.
Yeah,
We can
that's
talk
fine.
amongst ourselves. Okay. We have another comment. Yep. Yeah, and there is fine, or here?
My name's Sean Crine. I live at 254 Parkerville Road. I just want to point out that under the items we've been talking about, they're really, I mean, it's clearly inconclusive whether or not 12 units is allowed. We've had conflicting reports, and the applicant himself said they weren't sure, and they had nothing but a letter from the assessor as proof. There was no, the attempt to show the economic benefit was, I mean, they admitted themselves that was an issue they addressed, and using the average residential home price, as a point of reference is obviously skewed by multi-million-dollar houses on the other side of town. So saying a $400,000 home is affordable to residents in Southborough, I think is a stretch at best. And not that I'm saying this development doesn't do it. What I'm saying is that it certainly hasn't been proven, and there's been almost no attempt to address that today. So, I mean, those are the two biggest points. I mean, the other thing is the cottage-style housing. I mean, we're talking about 150-year-old houses that are, farm-style and while, that's not my taste, I guess that's very subjective, but I would say that doesn't fit in with some of the older homes in the area. Again, that's a subjective view, but I just wanted to point out that based on the criteria that you guys can rule on, there really hasn't been, it hasn't been demonstrated that it's been addressed and thoroughly addressed by the applicant, in my view.
Thank you. All right, last call for any final comments before we close the public hearing. All right, does somebody want to make a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, public hearing is closed. Jeff, do you want to start with any comments you have on the application?
I just tend to agree that 7% rule's confusing to me. I think that's still an unknown.
That's what?
There's still an unknown.
I agree with that actually too.
Other than that, I mean, again, how far we're supposed to go with conditions, obviously screening's important, but I think that's planning board and they'll take care of it. And all the other boards, I mean, they still got a long way to go with Conservation Commission, given how far they're going in the buffer zone, but that's not up for us.
Paul?
Actually, very similar to what Jeff just said. I don't have any. I don't think we should be deciding on any conditions or the actual design and such. I guess that's for the planning board and the other various boards. I guess the question that we're getting asked to either approve or allow or not allow, I guess the only condition on that is subject to the math being accurate. So I don't know how that gets done or determined or.
Yeah, that's
But
kinda what I-
that would be my only thought. I mean, in general, I think this is an allowable use, if that's what's being asked of us. So I think it's an allowable use, but, assuming that the math is correct. That's my.
Andrew?
Yeah, I'm familiar with this site, and I know that on Highland Road in Parkerville, there's a, historic property there, and then down the road on Southfield Road, there's an old church which has been preserved, and there's also in that same area an old train station which has been preserved. So there's a couple of unique properties there, and then this development I don't think is really consistent with that. And we went through the specific criteria in the section of the bylaw about this application, but still there's just an overall criteria, which is whether the benefits to the town outweigh any adverse effects to the town or the vicinity. And I share some of the neighbors' concerns also about drainage and just what effect this has to the overall kind of character of that area.
Okay.
Andy, you may want to keep it on just in case we have further discussion.
Right. I feel pretty comfortable with this site. I think the applicant has made a concerted effort to try to make it as practical and as acceptable as could be for this area. I think that the price point for the units, I think, is good. I think I agree with Mr. Bartolini that if there aren't not a lot of homes in that $400,000 to $500,000 range, and I think a lot of people that are reaching retirement and want to stay in town, unless they want to spend, $200,000 or $300,000 more than that, they really probably have to move out of town, and it's a shame. So I think that it's good. I think the alternative to this site, for instance, a 40B project on this site, I think the neighbors would rather have something like this, an over 55 without children, and you don't have to worry about that. I think that they're very sensitive to the water issue. I know it's difficult, but I think that they've engineered it quite well. And as long as their plan is to go before that planning board, I don't see us really having the need to include any order of conditions. So.
Thanks, Dave. I mean, my thoughts are, my own view is, I actually thought the houses as designed, I thought they did a reasonable job to design them in a way that they, it's not gonna be perfect, but they incorporate the character of the neighborhood. So I wasn't worried about that element as much as you were, Andrew. And I think I'm with you guys on the drainage and the septic. I just don't, I think that those are two permits that are under the purview of the Board of Health for the septic. They're gonna evaluate, the mounding and the recharge rate and all that stuff, and the same thing with the stormwater. I mean, they're gonna get those permits from someone else that's has more expertise on drainage issues like that than we are. So, I mean, I know the abutters are raising those issues. I think that will be the forum for the abutters to raise those issues is before the Board of Health and the Concom. I don't think that they address at all the affordability. The bylaw does say, and I don't think we can ignore it, that to the greatest extent possible, the project is supposed to offer the facilities for varying economic levels. So I don't think they addressed it at all. Simply saying that, we're getting 12 units on this site, and this is the size we can get, and because of this size, they're only worth $400,000, so that's our affordability. In my mind, that doesn't fly.
Well, the ones, I thought of that too, but the one varying would be create something more value on the site. Because I think they're
well, I mean, there are other ways they can do it. I mean, they can't put affordability restrictions on the property. They can make some rent control, like a 40B, for instance. The whole part of a 40B.
I think the term variability, what does that mean? you
Well,
know,
I mean, it's for
4,
us to.
5, 6, 7,
it's
8,
for us to
9.
interpret. I don't think it means millionaires and moderately wealthy,
Right, okay.
you know?
But it's all
Those
relative,
are two,
so-
those are two varying income levels, but my guess is, yeah, I wasn't one of the original drafters, but my guess is the original drafters intended these to be affordable to different segments of Southborough. And there are people in Southborough who cannot afford a $480,000 house. So that's one thing that troubles me. And then the other thing is, I don't think they're wrong, but this 7% thing, I don't think we can pass on this until we find out the numbers there. And so one of the things I was going to suggest, in addition to anything else we do, is that we continue this and for at least another month, for them to come up and at the very least prove us those numbers, because if they don't prove those numbers, we can't grant this permit. But even aside from that threshold, I still have problems with the affordability
Who
issue.
proves that?
Well, we'll leave it them to. I think we've gotten this before, haven't we? Something from the assessor's office or something from someone.
A long time.
It's a,
So can you just get it?
There was
presented to us?
a long time ago, there was an application for an accessory apartment, and one of the criteria in the bylaw was that there has to be a finding that the town hasn't granted special permits for accessory apartments that exceed X percent of this figure, and I did call the assessor's office and get the figure, and there was no problem with it.
All right, so the assessor, so the number's there.
That's
for
how you get
assessors
the
to
information.
All right, so
Although,
the applicant goes and gets that from the assessor's office and gives it to us. Here's the problem: is that the assessor, the applicant's saying, and I can't talk to you directly, John. Is the applicant's saying, "Don't worry, the building inspector has that. You're all set." I don't think we can grant a permit on the applicant saying, "Don't worry, you're all set."
and I
The public hearing's closed, so we can't be taking comment from.
Yeah, can you just, what I have in mind is just produce it in some written form and submit it to us so we have it for our next meeting.
Tom, the public hearing's closed, so we can't.
I know. I understand. I'm talking to God.
I'm getting pushed to talk to you.
I just want to raise.
Oh, we do? Oh, procedurally, we have to reopen the hearing if we're going to continue the hearing, to allow them to submit additional evidence.
Yeah, we're gonna have to.
God told me. So I think I personally think we should do that. I think we need to have that question answered.
So first of all, then you want to, I guess, redetermine that we're continuing the meeting and not
I think
closing
first
it.
we need a motion to reopen the hearing.
I motion that we reopen the hearing.
Okay, I'd second that motion. Any discussion?
No.
Okay.
All in favor?
All in favor? Okay, so let's do that. I make a motion that we continue the hearing until the next meeting on March 24th.
And,
Do we need a time?
we have another application on the 24th as well, so can we set the times later?
I think we need to set a time now, actually.
Okay, all right, so,
So 7:30 on the 24th? Okay. I make a motion that we continue the hearing until 7:30
When are
on
we
March.
when are we starting on the 24th?
7:30?
Yeah, because this should go pretty. We're starting
Yeah.
at 7:30 again?
7:30, yeah.
All right, so I think it would make sense to have this first because I don't think it
Yeah,
should
I
be
don't think
a
there'll be
long
anything else on the schedule
discussion
that
or
day.
anything like that.
Okay.
So was there even a,
I'll make a motion to continue the public hearing until March 24th at 7:30.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor? Okay. Thank you.
Good job, good job. Yeah, it's, difficult. I didn't realize that, that it was.
That would happen in the space of
Okay, Mrs. Ferguson? You're next. Yes. Thank you, Jeff. Yes. Jeff, the thing is, no. Jeff, I'd appreciate it if you stick around until we finish, because when we finish this, we're gonna have another recess in between, because we've got some minutes that we have to approve that you were at the meetings that are 4 months behind that we have to get corrected.
This is,
Okay, can I get a motion? We have a 2-minute recess, please. Second, discussion,
second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Southborough Recreation Commission, Miss Doreen Ferguson, 21 Highland Street, Southborough, Mass. The Board of Appeals of the Town of Southborough will hold a public hearing in the Thomas J. McAuliffe Hearing Room of the Southborough Townhouse, 17 Common Street, on Wednesday, February 24th, 2016, at 8 p.m. with regard to the petition of the Schote Field, 28 Corderville Road. The petitioner is seeking a variance to install 7 light poles 60 to 80 feet in height. Relief is requested pursuant to Section 174-12.1H, Table, Pole-Mounted Height Limitations. A copy of the application may be reviewed at the office of the Building Department at the Townhouse during normal business hours. Leo F. Bartolini, Jr., Chairman.
All right, and we have no letters, right? Yeah, we have not received any public letters or anything on this, so the only letter we have is we've received the decision which was done by the planning board, which is public record. So, would you, Ms. Doreen, would you go forward and make your presentation,
Sure.
please?
So, thank you. I have with me tonight Brian Schifrin from the Recreation Commission, Karen Galligan from DPW, and Mike Berry from Musco Lighting. So, we're looking for variance for the pole heights. There's currently 10 poles over there. Some have lights, some don't. They range from probably 40 to 50 feet. The poles that we're looking to put in are 60 to 80 feet. I think just one pole is 80 feet tall. So in your packets, you have the plan from Musco as well as the engineering for the specs for it and everything. So I think we'll open up to questions.
Would you take and show us the 2 locations of those poles, please, the height-wise?
So the highest pole is at this yellow box on the road. The original lights that were in there are all around, the poles are around 60 feet, put in by residents 40 to 50 years ago. So in this plan, moving the poles to more desirable locations and having it professionally engineered resulted in different locations and different heights. So this is the 80-foot one, and this is a 70-foot pole. Overall, the entire field will be lit better with fewer poles and fewer cans, fewer lights.
Would they have the same directional that they presently have?
The direction, no, they would be aimed more appropriately to give better coverage. And they would also have shields on them, either, I guess what would be described as like a full shield, which would cover half the light. Anything that's just used for a soccer area or the outfield here, that's just on the field play would be a full shield, so there'd be less spill. And lights that were used for softball or baseball would have a half shield so that the fly ball area would still be lit appropriately. But currently the lights are more randomly aimed and have no shields at all.
All right. Any further comments, Doreen? Okay, a question from the board. Tom?
Just quickly, so the idea is that there's going to be fewer lamps in the end, and they're just going to be more effective in illuminating the field, and they're going to be more targeted in their direction, so there's less impact on off-site properties. Is that the idea?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
That makes sense to me.
David?
What's the lifespan of these lights? Like how long, what's the plan? Like how long could we expect to have these?
We warranty them for 25 years. We've got systems that are 35 years old that look the same as when they were installed.
And these are LED, right?
They're not. They're metal halide. The LED technology, it's there, but unlike for indoor applications or parking lots that they're on every day, all day, outdoor sports lighting, the cost benefit of going with LED is just, it doesn't financially make sense for the hours of usage that you have for athletics.
So what are they?
Metal halide. Similar type of lamp. The difference is the internal photometrics of the fixture itself, where we can concentrate more of the light onto the athletic field versus the spun aluminum fixtures that you have currently. just blast light out, and you hope you get enough on the athletic field, but you get it sky and everywhere else. We can show you photos of it if you'd like, but.
That's all the questions I have.
I don't have any questions.
Paul?
I guess kind of dumb questions, but what is the current, what's the current height allowable?
She
15
said
and 20.
65 and 40 feet. Doreen, what is the present height?
Oh, I think he asked.
Well, I guess what,
I think
He's
he
I
asking
guess,
what's
well,
allowed.
that's gonna be the next question,
Oh.
so,
It's 15 feet and 20 feet,
Right,
depending on what type of lamp
right.
it is.
And then what's out there now is,
So currently, there's 3 poles along here, 2 here, and 3 along here that are at 60 feet. And then there's poles out here that are probably around 30 feet. Over here, that's probably around 25 feet.
so there are currently poles that are already currently 60 feet on the property already?
Correct.
So we're just looking to just get newer poles? Or newer
We're getting
lights?
new
go a little
poles.
higher.
And go high.
Some of the,
Well, in some cases, you're going to 70 feet and 80 feet, but but we already have stuff that is 60 feet out there.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. And, this wouldn't have any adverse effect on anyone coming up and down Route 85, does it? So, I mean, it's not gonna be distracting, or, I mean, that would be my only concern if it causes any, further.
What's already there causes distraction already.
Right, but just
Yeah.
because something's
would be
there,
improved.
then you're asking for a variance, it doesn't
Yeah.
mean it's okay. If it is, I mean, I actually drive by it all the time when the lights are on, but I mean, so I don't think it's a distraction, but I don't know if any of that added height would, cause further distraction or possible distractions. I mean, I
Speak to that.
This slide just kind of shows you the reason that we go with a taller mounting height. If you think of it with a shorter pole, in order to get light out into the middle of the field, you've got to increase your aiming angle so that you can broadcast it out to the middle area, that playing surface that you have out here. So this pole is going to be lighting out there. With a taller mounting height, it allows us to decrease our aiming angles, thus decreasing the glare and the spill, so we can control how far that light travels off the playing surface. So that's the reason that we've got some 80-foot poles, is because the way that we located our poles is just so that we could maximize as many sports as possible out there. We've got the soccer field, so we've kind of pushed and located the poles so we could maximize the use of that field. But this kind of shows you the internal photometrics of each fixture. There's 2,000 different reflector types. Each one of these fixtures is made custom for this project, where that fixture's aimed, where it needs to direct the light, whether it's cut the light that reflects off the side of the lamp. These are all there to direct the light. These are here to diffuse the glare out of the bottom of the fixture. So these are the things that we do to allow us to maximize how much light we get out of that fixture so that we can light a field with less fixtures than today's technology. Just to... This shows you type of fixture that you have currently, 1976 spun aluminum. What we did is insert diffusers, like I said, to cut of the glare that came out of the bottom of the fixture to where we are today, with the visors to cut down on that glare that you see. As Brian mentioned, this shows the longer visor, but with softball you do have pop flies, so you need to have some uplight. If it was all soccer, we'd use these longer visors so that everything's controlled below the pole, but because you do need some uplight, we have the shorter visors for some of the softball poles.
I'm good.
Okay. One question is, was there any, I didn't remember any discussion on the time limit of the use of the property?
On the lights?
Yeah.
On the lights. Currently, I believe our permit says 11 p.m. and they'll be shut off at 11 PM. They're on automatic timers now, as opposed to just going over and turning the switch. So we can control it via the websites and everything.
All
So,
right. To go forward, are there any public questions or comments to be made? Yes, sir.
Hi, Brian Shea, 17 Pine Cone Lane. One quick question. Any of the proposed lighting, are they intended to light the basketball court
Yes.
as well? Okay.
Yes.
And I guess if you could just discuss the controls that you'll have on that to prevent, the glare on the residences that abut the property to the north.
For basketball, we'd use the longer visors. There's currently actually some fixtures aimed towards basketball off that wood pole that's currently there. But with the new location, it will put the pole more in the middle of the basketball court and aiming it straight down towards the basketball court. So it'd be from one side, and you'd have the longer visors to reduce the glare compared to the spun one that you have now.
Any other comments?
So I guess to that comment and to your comment about the usage, we'll have far greater control over when the lights are actually on with the new system than we currently have. Now it's just a light switch. Every light is on one light switch. So even if basketball is not being used, those are shining that way. Basketball will be a separate switch, just for when they're playing there. So better control and also, less lights on if it's not being used.
Okay. Any further discussion with the board?
And I assume there's no concern from abutters or neighbors or people on Latticewa, Cordoville, because they're not.
There isn't tonight. There was at the planning board meeting, but when we close the public hearing, I'm going to recommend a condition to be made, and the condition is to accept the approval made by the planning board. So that comes under our approval agreement that what the planning board has agreed on, we also agree upon, and put that into condition and make it finalized that way.
Sounds fine.
Okay, so I have a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second?
Second that?
All in favor? Aye, okay. And then the other thing is, have a condition just stating that the zoning board is a support of the approval. We are supporting the approval of it, and we are also supporting the approval of the planning board on it. So that goes in together at the same thing. So the board agrees upon that? Okay, so I get a motion made, please? John, go ahead.
I make a motion that we approve the application, subject to the same conditions that were imposed by the planning board on its special permit, which we support.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Do we have a discussion? All in favor? Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That was very good.
Thank you.
Very good. We have the next meeting is continuance of the public hearing for Park Central. But prior to doing that, we gotta have some discussions here with the existing board before they sit down. The first thing is, we have the meetings minutes to be approved that go back a few months, and where we've not had any meetings, we need to get them done. Hold on. Okay, the approval in the minutes on November 9th. Karen, who was sitting on that, do you know? I want a minute to find out which members were sitting. Jeff, were you sitting on November 9th?
I don't remember, depending on what.
All right, she's gonna look. Go ahead, Karen.
November 9th was a continued public hearing for Park Central, as well as Stonebrook Village appeal discussion was that evening. So present, Bartolini, Eagle, DePranos for Park Central. Oregon Road was Bartolini, Dennington, Biscule, Eagle, and DePranos. That's for November 9th.
November 9th. So the first one, I thought we approved at last meeting on the Park Central?
Well, you did another date. You did, I think, the January 20th minutes
All
you
right,
guys
so-
approved, yeah.
I have a motion to approve the minutes for Park Central between myself, David, and Paul on the Park Central meeting on November 9th. Any questions on the minutes?
I think you can approve the minutes as a group, can't you? Because
No.
both
It has to be
topics.
done separate.
Okay, all right.
So, because there were two separate meetings.
Okay. Well, they were both done on the same evening.
Yeah, but they're two
Okay.
separate meetings.
Okay.
So, can we have a motion to approve those minutes on November 9th?
I'll make a
For
motion
The
to,
Park Central meeting.
yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the November 9th meeting for Park Central.
Okay, we have a second?
Guess that would only be me. I second that.
Okay, any discussion? All in
No
favor?
discussion.
Aye. Okay. Then we need a motion to approve the meeting for November 9th for Stonebrook Village.
Stonebrook Village, 0 Oregon Road.
0 Oregon Road, which the other members were involved in. So, any discussions on those minutes? Okay, can we get a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for Oregon Road
Okay,
November
second,
on November 9th.
yeah, second,
Second.
any discussion? All in favor? Aye. The next set of minutes are December 2nd. And that was the Fay School solar field.
So that was
Um,
0 Marlborough Road Junction, Fay School.
I mean, St. Mark's solar
Mark.
field, I'm
Well,
sorry.
you had a couple of things on that evening.
Go
You
ahead.
had 0 Marlborough Junction, Fay School synthetic turf field, and you also had 25 Marlborough Road, St. Mark's determination for solar.
Okay,
array.
who were the members, please?
And then you have the residences at Park Central, okay. The appeal for the turf field, Bartolini, Dennington, Biscule, DePranos, and Walker.
Okay, so any discussion on that, those minutes?
Can I-
If not,
I did want to have a little bit of discussion on that, because one of those, is there a deadline for submitting approving the minutes on that?
At this point,
they need to, we're behind on them, we're supposed to, they should have been
One of
done.
them is now in litigation.
What?
One of them is now in litigation, so I think we should be
What?
really careful about
What do you mean?
St. Mark's.
That had nothing to do with us. That's gone. I mean, we have to approve our minutes.
Yeah, I'm just saying we should take some care in the way they're drafted. But if people want to approve them, I'll approve them.
Yeah, I see there's no reason why we shouldn't approve them. So the approval would be on the first half of the meeting, and then the other,
Yeah, I wasn't
excluding
sitting,
Park
so I have no
Central.
comment.
You also didn't sit on St. Mark's.
I did not sit on St. Mark's,
Right,
so I have no
you're
comment.
excused. And Jeff, you sat in his place, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So can we get a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, do we have
for
a
which,
second?
for which you
For
doing,
the St. Mark's, one that we're talking about now?
Yeah, St. Mark's. you're talking about.
She's
Yeah,
shaking her head now.
we're approving all the minutes except for Park Central,
Central, yes.
okay? Any discussion?
so who
Who seconded?
made the motion, Jeff?
Jeff, yes.
And who second?
Paul?
No, because I'm
Well,
not,
he's exempt, so who, we need a second?
Not me, I wasn't.
Was Dave saying that? You weren't
No,
saying that?
no,
I'll second the motion.
okay. David,
I wasn't, I don't think I said that.
You did say
was David here that night? No?
Did I?
Okay, so you had 3 matters that evening.
Oh, and the St. Mark's that I did, yes.
Yeah,
I'm
you were
sorry.
here because.
Yeah, yeah,
I think you
we
should
had-
treat
okay.
St. Mark's separately,
All right,
perhaps?
any
or
further
no?
discussion on that? Okay, all in favor? Aye, okay. The other thing is, we need a motion to approve the Park Central meeting, which is David and Paul, for that December 2nd also.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from December 2nd for the Park Central.
Okay, do we have a second?
Again, that better be me.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay, the next December is December 8th.
Oh, we had a lot of meetings.
The thing is, these meetings are behind because we haven't had a full meeting group since then, so.
So that was just the turf field, and so that's Bartolini, Dennington, Biscule, DePranos, and Walker.
And which one is?
The turf field.
All right, the turf field.
That's the Fay School.
Yes. Okay. Do we have a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay. Do we have a second on the motion?
Sure.
Okay, is there any discussion?
No discussion.
No, everything else done? Okay, do we have a vote to approve? All in favor of the motion? Aye, okay, thank you. David, you weren't in that one, right? Okay. So, Karen, is that all of them?
That's it.
Okay, the other thing is a discussion, is quick, is on March 23rd at 7:30, we are going to have the application for a marijuana bylaw, which has presently been filed in front of us.
Would that be the-
Karen has taken,
Would that be the 24th?
no, the 23rd.
On the 23rd?
The 23rd.
So we're doing 2 days?
Yes,
Okay.
because of the fact that we don't want to put anything else on the agenda for the 23rd except for the marijuana bylaw.
Understood.
Karen has given you, the members, the town bylaw, which was written, which I was involved in writing, that she's given that to you. She's also gone and got the state rules and regulations on the email, but there's 52 or 54 letters, notes on it. So instead of making copies of it all, you people can take, and she will email you the information, and you can go online on a computer and look it up and review it that way. But it's something that we'd like to have you do in talking to, before the meeting, so we'll have it. Yes, also, I've had a meeting with Mr. Purple, that we're going to request to have town council involved in this, which he is going to be at all the meetings and everything for us, also on this.
Who?
What?
Who's who?
Town council.
Aldo?
Aldo Cipriano.
Oh, I thought you just said she.
No, Aldo Cipriano will be involved.
Did he say she?
You did.
He
Said what?
He said she. That's why you have me confused.
Aldo Cipriano will be involved in it as town
You're
council.
Dressing differently.
Okay? So that's, but the information is that he had said it, that, it's good that you people review this information, and
Electronically would be fine.
Date on
And-
that?
March 23rd at 7:30.
What are we doing, passing the we ruling, comment on the bylaw? Is that what we're doing?
Do you mean that there's an application?
No, we
for
have an
something?
application in front of us
Oh,
for approval.
It's on,
Yes, on the 23rd.
What?
it's on Route 9, right?
Yes.
Okay.
In the zone that we approved.
What?
It's within the zone. Why isn't, well, I guess we can discuss that on the 23rd.
Basically, for public reason tonight, the only discussion is that you're being given the rules and regulations, and there is going to be there is an application been filed for it on Route 9 for March 23rd.
And I haven't mailed it to you because I didn't want it before this meeting, so you'll get that soon.
Okay, we'll get the
Okay.
application in the mail.
But-
This is just the rules that we're gonna be applying.
There you go, yeah, and you'll be getting all that, okay? All right, so the next meeting is the Park Central meeting,
All right.
so we take a minute to excuse everybody.
Ladies?
Packing out as fast as I can.
Very jealous. Oh, thank you.
Just in case you need it later to discussion.
What's up there?
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to open the continuance of the public hearing on Park Central. I apologize due to the fact that we're a little later than we were supposed to be, but nothing I can do about that. Okay, the beginning of the discussion tonight is going to be on the letter presented to us by the planning board on February 4th, is that right?
January.
January 4th.
This is February 9th. You're looking at that's something else. That's Schofield.
Oh, I got the wrong one. Where's the yellow? Hold on. Give me 1 second, I'll get the right one here.
Here, I got my copy, but I need it back.
I got it right here. Right. But it is January 4th that was submitted to us. So I would start with the members of the board have reviewed all this and gone over it? And everything, okay. So we also have a comment that was made by Mr. Petrie on file with us.
Dated
January 11th.
Right.
Is our response to the planning board's letter, January 4th.
Right. Okay. All right.
Yep.
What? No, we don't, we'll have to put it in, and we can discuss it as we go along. Paul, do you want to start on the discussion of the letter?
Discussion of the letter.
Excuse me.
I just wanted
Yes.
to make a quick comment.
Yes.
Paula Thompson from Waterman Design is no longer with Waterman, so Wayne Bellick will be taking Paula's place.
From the engineering company?
Engineering
Oh,
company,
all right,
yep.
very good. Have
Not
you
as
been here
good-looking as
before,
Paula.
or?
I haven't been here in a long time.
I was gonna say,
A
you didn't
long
look
time.
familiar.
But you were here prior, weren't you?
Costanza, George Costanza. It's been
Okay.
a long time.
All right.
Years, decades.
We'll work on this one.
Okay.
Yeah, start. We'll start with the issues that have been written. And, you know.
Okay, so I guess the letter from the, planning board to us from January 4th.
Yes.
And I know there are a lot of points made, some of them, I think, in the same kind of point in multiple places. But, I mean, just want me to kind of go through anything that I have a comment on, and then just continue going forward, I guess, or?
I think we could walk through some of the highlights of the planning board letter.
Right.
And maybe the applicant can address them publicly.
As we go through.
Okay, I mean, because again, I have some comments, and then, like before, and then some questions, so.
The first issue on it is the major site plan review thing, which we've given the planning board our copies, and until the developer submits the plan for the 4 items that he has, but there is no issue on a major site plan review to be submitted,
Right, so my understanding is there is not a major site plan review
No.
to be done at the moment.
Okay, the other thing is the applicant also required,
Number 2 here,
on the impact.
for the lower impact development?
Right.
I guess that's maybe a question I have.
So,
What exactly, or how exactly?
so after we go through the planning board letter, we presented the board with a list of waivers that we would be requesting. We were gonna go through them, and the lower impact development is one of the waivers
Okay.
that
So
Mr.
that'll
Bellick's
be
gonna go
discussed
through and
after.
explain as to why we're looking for the waiver.
But I guess, could you further explain what exactly is the lower impact development?
I'll let,
Yeah, absolutely. I was actually looking to save this till we got to the waivers, but I'm glad you asked the question. Because the site was designed incorporating low-impact development principles, I wanted to start off with that, and I'm glad you brought it up. Basically, what low-impact development is there are some fundamental principles in low-impact development. One is to mimic the existing conditions, watershed patterns, the drainage, the hydrology. 2 is to capture the stormwater and mitigate it at the source. And then 3 is to think small. So when you look at lid type of designs, and I'll go on to say before I jump into it, that not all projects, not all sites work with low impact development. I've done a number of sites where, I'm a big promoter for lid, but there are some sites, as you start to get into it, it really doesn't hold together. And one example would be a perfect lid site would be a site that's fairly flat, very gentle topography, with great draining soils. When you get sites that are steeper, sites that are, your 10% slopes across the site, tight soils, it becomes a little bit more challenging. So what tends to happen is when you get into those sites, and when I look at this particular site, we were able to incorporate the lid principles to the greatest extent practicable. And what I mean by that is, for the most part, that on the site plans we proposed narrow roadways. That's thinking small, a lid principle. Narrow roadways. When we looked at the rental component up above the 40B units, the 180 units, One other lid principle, and in fact, one of the directions that Mass Housing is pushing 40B proponents is rather than sprawl that type of development out, compact it. And that's what we've done up there. So when, you know, that's another principle. So when you look at some of the sites like this site, we were able to incorporate it throughout most of the site in areas where you have your roadway or common driveway grades, your access driveway grades steeper than 5%. What you do is rather than have your roadside swales where everything pitches from the center line of the road into the roadside swales, you need to incorporate berms, because if you don't put in curbing there, you have erosion problems. So low-impact development, again, is primarily looking at mimicking the existing conditions, hydrology, and thinking small.
And the other thing is, if the board members remember, when we did the Bob Moss's project, this was not involved in that at all, because of the design of that project and what he's saying.
Okay, so, but based on I guess the planning boards, I guess that's a comment then they were making, that an application will be filed for that?
Well, we're not gonna file, we're gonna ask for a waiver of the application because we know we can't meet it, but we have designed the site as much as we can to comply with it, but they're.
And incorporate it.
Incorporate it, but
Okay.
here is that.
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
not gonna comply.
Can I elaborate on that, Bill?
Sure.
Looking at the zoning bylaw and looking at that specific section, Bill's right. We comply with pretty much most of it. The difference in looking at the zoning bylaw, it requires a special permit. Now, the approach that we're taking with the comprehensive permit, it's all-inclusive, and based on the decision that the ZBA had made in granting the variance for the integrated site development a while ago, we're looking to, in terms of our permitting process, comprehensive permit with the ZBA, filing with the Concom, and the residual site plan review with the planning board. So that's one reason that we're looking at the special permit. We just feel there's some redundancy there, you know, and looking at the lid, there's redundancy. It's incorporated in our design. We're gonna deal with everything that's required in lid. When we're going before the Conservation Commission, we have to. So that's basically it.
The bottom line is you're gonna make your best effort to comply with it.
That's absolutely right.
That's.
Again, yeah, and it's one of those things, like I said, it's hard to have a pure lid site. It's frustrating. I've only had one. A lot of times they're hybrids, and I look at this, as I said to Paula, this is a hybrid.
Yeah.
All right, I guess jumping down a bit to number 4, to streamline this some. And again, my understanding is, you know, that any, I guess, information and submissions from Fuss and O'Neill and from Waterman, those are made available, and, you know, they are.
Yeah, the issue with that, and I don't think the planning board understands it, Foss O'Neill has been directed by us to work with the developer's engineering company. And any issues that come up, they finalize them. Now, I talked to our representative at Foss O'Neill the other day. They've been working with the engineering company. I understand there were 3 or 4 things that were presented to you people, and on the new set of plans that are coming out, they've been going to be corrected and everything.
Yep.
So, this is the same thing we did with Bob Moss's project. We had Foster O'Neill work with the abutters, the contractors, engineering company, and making their decisions and whatever. If there's anything in the process that is not resolved under the rules and regulations of the town of Southborough, then it will come back in front of us. When the plan is completely finalized, they will write us a letter with a, what do you call them, that'll be sent to the planning board also.
Yep.
Which, hopefully soon, we're going to be getting a final set of plans.
Yeah,
Is that
so-
not true?
It is true, just so the board's aware where we are in the process. So we sat down with Fuss and O'Neill when the plans were at 70%. We had a meeting here at the town hall. We went through the plans. They gave us some comments. We're in the process of bringing the plans to 98%, hopefully within the next couple of weeks. They'll be at that level, and then we're gonna submit them to Fuss O'Neill for comments, as well as to, we're gonna file with Concom within the next 3 weeks.
And we'll also get a copy of those plans.
Yes, and the board, all the departments will also get a copy.
Okay,
Yep.
all right.
All right, so the planning board will get a copy of that?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
We'll
That's good.
We do that.
Right.
We
but
get it, all right.
We'll
Whatever
distribute it
we
back out.
find them, the applicant.
Right.
I guess points 5 and 6 are statements, so don't really require any comment. 7, and I guess I I agree with that matrix. That's what we have for, for 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms and in total units. So that seems, I believe that to be accurate. Affordability, looking at this further.
Yeah, there was some discussion in the notes from the planning board concerning the affordability. They wanted some feedback on the location of the affordable units. There was some notes about a marketing plan that they suggest that the developer work with Shopsy on. I mean, I don't know
That
if you want to.
doesn't happen. The thing is about it is that when the project is finished and completed, the applicant is responsible to hire an agency, which number one,
Right.
will take and put the location of the units on a plan, and all of these issues that they've requested by the planning board will be done at that time.
But the units are dispersed. It's,
Yeah, they're
I mean,
dispersed
you're
anyhow. Aren't
not-
they
I
random?
mean,
So this agent kind of decides with us as well as with Shopee as to where the units are spread out throughout the 2
Okay.
buildings.
And that'll
We
be
just
done
can't say
after
we
the
can't put them all in one
approval
corner. They
with-
gotta go
Right.
randomly.
Okay,
Right.
so and I'm sure the
Same thing
planning
is-
board understands that process.
Yeah,
so
and it's
they-
more with the applicant, the agency, and Shopsy.
No, and it was done the same way with Bob Moss's
Right,
project.
okay.
And then, I mean, I see here in the affordable part that there was, I guess, I'm not too sure what the point was, but they're saying about the 3-bedroom component. And I know initially there was some concern about that, so I guess is this saying that this is, I guess,
I think
a
that's-
positive thing now? Is
I don't
that?
know, I think that's still an open issue between us and the board and the neighbors. Mass Housing has stated that they want the 10% 3-bedroom units within the buildings. I know the neighbors don't want the 10% 3 bedrooms, and I don't know how the board's going to write the decision, but that's still up in the air a little bit.
And it's something that'll be discussed when we go into doing the decision at that time. Because, Mass Housing has been very strong, and they have not granted a waiver to anyone recently since this bylaw was changed to eliminate the 3-bedroom units on the 10% regulation.
So that'll be about 18 units or so that will have 3 bedrooms?
Dave, I think it's 10% of the affordable.
Yeah, 18.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
there's.
10% of the
Of the affordable. So there's
Okay.
40, so.
The
4 and a
affordable
half.
So
units in total.
before,
Exactly. It's not a
I
big
understand.
deal.
Okay.
And again, maybe I'm not looking at this properly, but my understanding is that this will be, I guess it's relatively affordable for Southborough as far as where these units are coming in, for a 3-bedroom unit.
You talking about at the affordable price?
Not at the,
The market?
I mean, the market rate of this is gonna be relative, this is, I guess, comments from earlier tonight, relatively affordable, I'm assuming based on, where,
don't.
but we haven't, not to get into the economics of it
Yeah.
or the marketing of it, but that's somewhat my understanding, that these will be, relatively in the affordable
We
realm.
talking about the 40B or the townhomes?
Well, we're still in the 40B component.
Yes, yes.
But the 3 bedrooms are gonna be
Affordable.
relatively affordable. I mean, again, relative,
to be.
it's
Yeah,
a,
they have to be.
They have to
Yep,
be.
Yep. They fall under
10% of them
the 25%
out of
affordable.
the total, how many is the total number of affordable units?
45 units, I believe.
45, So the 3-bedroom plus the additional all have to be affordable. And
That's at
under
80%.
State regulations.
80%
wait a
of
second,
them
say that again?
There's 45 affordable units in the total 40B project.
Okay,
10% of them are the
3-bedroom.
3-bedroom units that are mandatory, which are all affordable, and the balance of them are all affordable units. The total 45 units are affordable on that part of the project.
so of that number of 45, the 18 that are 3-bedroom will be actual,
I don't know where they got that 18
Yeah.
number. It's not,
There
it's
is
not
not
right.
18.
No. I think
That's-
they were just taking 10% of the.
Of the
100.
total thing, but that's,
Yeah.
this is the planning board's chart.
So it's 4
Is
or
it
5?
5 3-bedroom units?
I think they round up, so 5, yeah.
I think it's 5 3-bedroom units. I've got something else I've got written down.
Yep.
So there's 5 of them.
So it'll be
but they're
5 and they'll be
affordable.
all affordable.
and they'll be all affordable.
Yeah.
Okay, all
That's
right,
mandatory.
all right,
Right.
all right, gotcha.
Now, let me ask you, has this been explained to the neighbors, this whole formula, as far as the 3 bedrooms? I know you're getting some pushback on the 3-bedroom units, but that's really out of your hands, and
It is, and we explained to them that even if the zoning board says we're gonna write the decision based on 1 and 2 bedrooms, Mass Housing can kick it back and say, no, you will do 3 bedrooms.
We've already asked Mass Housing, and they're not being in favor
Yeah.
of it. So
Okay.
Well, I
we
think
have no technical.
Yeah, and I think, again, looking at, from what I understand of the project and how it's evolved to what we're looking at today, and looking at the 3 bedrooms in that 40B or the rental component, that's as far away from the abutters as you can
Right,
get, as
and-
close to 495 as well.
I mean, it's really 4 units or 5 units out of the project is
Yeah.
inconsequential.
Right.
I guess further down here, this impact study, and one of the points was the impact on schools. And I know we have some,
Okay. What we've done on this is, technically, there's no normal under these processes of doing anything with the schools. But one of the abutters requested a question at our last meeting, so I've done some research work. And I have talked to Mr. Sabelli, which has given Mr. DePietri a tax information on the project, which the project itself is going to be, I'm gonna start off with the bedrooms first. I've taken and gone through it and come up with a normal number of bedrooms total on this project. And, Mr. Petrie, would you give Mr. Petrie a copy of this, please?
Yes, I thought he gave me a copy.
No.
I don't have that.
Oh, God, you.
You have an extra one as well, Karen?
Yeah, let me just go through our
Yeah,
dedicated.
Bill, you can.
Thanks.
Okay. So, basically.
We can share.
Okay, basically on the study, on the 180 units, there are going to be roughly 87 one-bedroom units, 88 two-bedroom units, 3-bedroom units.
okay?
On the 142 townhouses, which I think is supposed to be 135 townhouses,
Well, we have up to
Give or take.
158, the number's fluctuating.
or whatever.
Yeah.
So on that would be 72 bedrooms and 73 bedrooms, which
Okay.
would have a total of 322 units total. Okay? And then with the issue of the school and stuff, I've talked to the town taxer, Brian, and the number, which is basically, is $17,000 per kid for the school, which that number's gone up within the last 3 years from 13,000 due to the fact that schools have been reduced by kids. And due to the fact they've reduced the school, they haven't changed their budget, nor have they eliminated teachers or anything.
Yeah.
So this here project, which will have, and I'll give you the number in a minute, will decrease that amount of money. The 6.8% on the children's units of, 68 children units, 21 and a half kids. The double, is 21 times 2, so there's a total of 44 school children,
And
which, give or take.
Estimated.
and you're doubling that because it's just,
What?
why are you doubling that?
That number is a total of both projects.
Okay.
That's the total number, and the thing is, on the 144 units, I've talked to several different developments, one in Ashland, another one in Hopkinton, that have that have that many kids in their units. So
Okay.
I've talked to several to get an idea of, the numbers aren't 100% perfect, but they are very close.
All right.
So what happens is that with the tax number and 44 kids, the taxes would be $748,000 to the expense of the school. The taxes on the property will be $1,435,000.
Okay.
Okay? So that means that the valuation that'll be a surplus for the town is $1,187,000. And the other thing is that the DPW has no road maintenance or any project stuff, where technically, and I don't know if Karen's still here, but Karen and I talked, that, you know, in 20 to 25 years, maybe they have to go in and replace the roadway, which was cost about $200,000, and roughly $1,000 a year for plowing. But that is no expense to the town on this project, because they're privately owned roads. So the town will get the $1,187,000 tax money, basically free money for the town. Plus, which has not happened yet, on the income of the hotel and the other units that may be built, which has been talked, that tax revenue is somewhere around $500,000, which will be no impact on the schools of the town also, except for the impact of, you know, from fire and police, of, you know, some numbers, but those numbers I didn't get involved in.
Okay.
So, but that's another $500,000, which will make a total estimate of tax income of $1,935,000
Okay.
total. And the thing is that the other building that's presently there is around $85,000 in taxes.
Which,
The office building that's presently on the property,
um,
the 50,000 square foot building. Because I had talked to Mr. Sabelli and he had given me a rough estimate.
yeah, 87,000.
So that's another 87,000 that would get added into it. So the question that was made by the abutter that at the last meeting was, so these numbers are basically, there's some things that would change them. Some of these kids may go to private schools, which wouldn't add. Some of them may go to special schools that the town would pay extra money for them to do. And the major issue that I've studied on this, that anywhere from 10 to 12 years, this will get cut in half because of the fact these kids will be grown up and they'll be out of school unless the people sell all their houses and have younger people back in there again. So those numbers will decrease instead of increasing on the project. And, I mean, the numbers that I did on the total 44 kids, I think, in talking to different people, are gonna be less than the numbers I
Well, I
gave.
mean, I didn't sit on, I was on the board when Madison was originally
Yes.
approved, but
Madison numbers
I was on the board when
3,800.
the additional units were approved, and I just recall from those discussions that whatever the number that was determined to be was far less, actually,
Madison Place number was 38 people,
was
38 kids.
the estimated number,
Right, and he only turned around right now to have 14.
14.
And that place is 100%. You need to get to the mic, sir. That's 100%. You know, presently, the residents that are all rented.
Okay.
So there's only, you know, and it's one of the lowest ones around. Yes, sir.
Howard Rose, 2 Bantry. First of all, thank you for doing the study. I appreciate you taking the time and looking at the numbers. I think there's a slight discrepancy there that isn't being adjusted here. I'm assuming the places in Ashland, and please tell me if you're wrong, they all had 1 and 2 bedroom units. And to your other points, the question we have with the 2 bedroom units is not necessarily the 40B project, it's the 40A.
I did both projects.
But you did them exactly the same.
What?
But you have the exact same numbers and you double it. You had 44 students in 1 and 2 bedroom, 1 bedroom unit and 2 bedrooms, and when you get into the larger units, there's gotta be more kids.
The thing is that the process on that unit are houses that have been built like that in different towns.
There's
And those are the numbers that have come up.
Yeah, why would you think there'd be more kids? I don't
They're
understand.
not
More
100
bedrooms.
But that
It's
doesn't-
that, it's that
But
simple.
that doesn't,
Bedrooms doesn't mean more kids.
Yeah.
necessarily.
Absolutely. At the
Let me
price
clarify-
range you're
excuse
going,
me.
I guarantee you're gonna get 2
I want to clarify
kids.
one thing with this. These numbers are not 100%, okay?
I agree.
But they are very close to it. And the thing about it is, the town's gonna get $1,100,000 clean taxes. If they had another 40 kids to it, we'd still get, you know, 800,000. So I don't really think
But
it's
if you
bad.
really get the number and there's 2 bedrooms, how many the
Yeah,
large
but
units are there in the?
You got 1 bedrooms
40B?
factored in too, so if in that theory, there'd be less for the 1 bedroom.
They kind of even out.
So you only have 10% 3 bed, oh, there you are. You only have 10% three-bedroom.
No, that's only in the 40B.
Talking
In the
about the townhome.
40A, you've got over a third of them. You've got.
Oh, I'm sorry.
In the
Okay.
40A, you have, what are you up to, 80 units in 3 bedrooms?
Well, I guess here you're saying, I mean, for your math here, you were saying 70.
Yeah, approximately.
Okay, 73 bedrooms in the 40A. To say that there's only one kid, just go with the high side. At 70 units with 2 kids, you're now at 140 kids. Take a little off of that. Let's call it 100 kids plus the ones on the other side.
Yeah, well,
Now do your math.
These numbers were done as far as on the thing is with
But
the.
they were done
the way
on
they're
units
done
with 1 and
mass-
2 bedrooms.
the
Ask
way-
them-
No, it's the way Mass Housing comes up with their estimate of the numbers.
But Mass Housing, as they admitted, why they're pushing these 3-bedroom units
That's what
is because they don't
use.
have any.
It's mandatory by Mass Housing right now.
The other thing that's not associated in there is you don't have the cost of any student with a special need.
Any what?
Students with special needs, anyone on an IEP or any kind of thing.
I understand
the
that, but we
cost
also-
is-
That's right, and I said, this statement I started to make until you got up in it, that there are issues that students could go to the special things, which would be different money, or there may be a bunch of students to go to Faith School or different places that wouldn't even have any expense to the town of Southborough. Bob Moss's project on Route 9, which has many 2-bedroom units in it.
But no 3.
Has no kids in it.
But no 3. There are no 3-bedroom units in
That's
Bob
right,
Moss's
but
unit.
that's nothing to do with that. That's a different
it
thing.
does. There's no
But
data.
They have no kids, 12, 14 kids in it. So
They
the
have
numbers
14
I gave
kids.
are stronger than that.
But the 14 kids were in 1 and 2 bedrooms. I'm not arguing the 1 and 2 bedroom. I think the numbers for the 40B project, where the state has the data, is fairly accurate. There is no data on 3-bedroom units because no one's built them yet. You're building a project that is almost 10% the housing stock of this town with 3-bedroom units. 3-bedroom units with the school system we have, that's why people move here. You need to take into account the numbers on the other high side of that and see what the taxes really are going to be and how we're going to pay for that.
As long
because
as the taxes
if
the
I'm
way
right,
they are on this property, and we could add up to 58 kids, it would be 50% of the taxes going to the town of Southborough clean.
Mr. Bowling, if I just want
Yes.
to make a point, and I don't know where the $17,000 number's coming from. I mean, that's probably what it costs to educate a kid today. But if you're adding 40 kids into the school, you're not adding more teachers, you're not adding more buildings. The infrastructure is there. All you're adding is minimal cost. So this 17, I feel, is extreme. It's double, I feel, of what it should be.
And
Because
the-
that cost is there, whether we add 1 kid or 40 kids, that number is there.
This is the statement that I made when I started, is the fact that this cost has gone from 13,000, and it's, right now, it's up to $16,580, which you rounded off at 17,000. But with the additional kids that go, it's gonna go down again. Because the school budget has not changed in the last 5 or 6 years. It's gone up, if anything.
Well,
and
two
this
things
is
should
all
happen. Either they're
thing-
gonna cut their budget to bring the pupil cost down, or we can add more kids, which will also bring the pupil cost down.
It'll bring the thing, because the 17,000 is times X amount
Right.
of kids for the school budget. So
Maybe we should do 4-bedroom units.
so at your 13,000 with 90 kids, you're at over $1 million, and that's without any special needs students.
what?
I took your number of the 13,000 times 90 students. You're at 1,170,000. That's before any special needs students.
That's right.
before
And
you have
we still have 900 some odd thousand
and
dollars.
that's
for the
before you
town.
run out of room and we need a new high school.
Well, my opinion is.
So you've got a lot of things you haven't discovered, you haven't figured out here. You still haven't solved the safety, you still haven't solved the school. I ask you to look harder at the numbers, find data on 3-bedroom units. All the data you're using is on 2 bedrooms because there isn't yet. I don't want us to be the test case for the rest of the state.
It is what it is, sir.
Oh.
Okay? It's the end of that discussion.
All right, let's continue on
Yeah.
with the notes from the planning board.
I guess,
Let's see, mitigation? Is that
well,
what-
yeah, we're still on I was still on mitigation. We were discussing tax impacts there, I guess, a little bit. Now I lost where.
The
Oh, some of
impact
the, I guess I'm skipping down. Is there any other points in there that you have?
No, actually, no, I just read it through and it's, we pretty much covered it.
I skipped down to, the mobility there.
Yep.
And the trails, the connection to neighborhood. Again, my understanding is I mean, there are trails on the property.
So we have the 21 acres of open space. There are existing trails there. We've got probably close to 8,000 linear feet of sidewalk throughout the property in addition to the trails. And the neighbors did not want the two projects connected, mobility-wise.
The two, I mean, the trails, they don't want
No,
connected.
meaning the.
40B and
the
Development.
our development, they did not want it connected to Bantry and Blackthorn.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the planning board was suggesting that they may find it interesting and exciting to have that connection.
I
but I don't
agree.
see that.
No, I think it should be connected,
Yeah.
but
But that was
But you're-
done based on feedback from the abutters.
input from the abutters.
Okay.
the other thing that we want to back up on is the fact of it on the impact study of the impact on Flag Road, Deerfoot Road, and Clifford. That is to be done not by us, by the by the Board of
Right.
Selectmen. So that doesn't belong in here at all.
Right.
The water supply booster impact is something that has been negotiated with the Highway Department, am I right? As far, Ms. Gallagher, can you explain that, please? Or Mr. Petrie, whatever.
So we're working with the DPW and their consultant, Peer Engineering. We will be designing and installing a pressure boosting pump for the project.
Okay.
That's water supply. Transportation, I mean, I guess here again, when we're discussing Flag Road again, and I think that's the same
Right.
That doesn't go. And the other issue,
comment. I mean, we discussed, the parking restriction, and again, I believe that to be a selectman that's,
and the,
has been discussed, and I guess we're gonna
the
guess it-
bottom,
advise on it.
the bottom issue, and from what I understand that happened prior to this with Mr. DePietri, you are involved in the bus transportation system, aren't you?
We are
Because
a
you
member
did
of
this
it.
years ago,
We
right?
donated a lot of money to it, and we also are a member of it, and we will be the management company that will be managing the project, so there will be bus stations up there, signage put into the packages that the people, when they buy or when they rent into it, to make them aware of the public transportation.
Because I talked to my aunt Kathy, which is on the planning board, but prior to her being, she was involved with this committee thing, and when Mr. DePietri was involved and donated the money or presented money to the project.
Okay. And those,
That's-
and
That's for the senior buses, basically, that go around. There's like 3 or 4 different stops in town
restricted?
where the buses go around and they'll pick seniors up or people that don't
It can
drive.
be anyone, yeah.
And take them down to the Natick Mall or take them to Worcester or whatever, 2 or 3 times a day. They're like, there's a pickup downtown. I think the other one's over by the Gulbenkians.
Yes, yep.
And,
They don't take to the train though, right? They
No.
would-
that,
Well, I
actually,
don't-
that's what I was gonna ask.
I don't know what they do
There's
or
2
not.
things we're talking, there's the MWRTA bus.
yes,
And then and bus to MBTA station.
yeah.
So is there gonna be some type of
That bus does. That
That,
system
that
does.
bus does go to the train,
train,
to the train station. I
But it
assume
is
that's what
something that is being taken care of and involved.
And
with the
I would
project.
assume that would, I mean, I guess help, that would be during, like, that's something that, I mean, commuters or,
And when the
Yeah,
thing
yeah.
about
so that
that,
would help alleviate, I guess, some
Traffic,
some
yeah.
traffic.
on some of these issues that we're discussing, that when we go to do our final decision, some of these will be put into that decision and mandated, so it'll happen at that time. It's nothing that we'll do now until after we go to finalize the decision on it. So that would be something that, we'd mandate that he does do and take care of.
Okay. I guess down to, amenities and open space. Again, there is, I guess, quite a bit of open space being set
Well, there's
aside
the
for.
21 acres that is, whatever they decide they're gonna do with it. There is no mandatory open space on this project at all. The 40B project under mass housing does not have an open space requirement. The use variance under the, does not have an open space requirement. But
But there is
Mr.
open space.
DePietri, what?
But there is open space.
But that's Mr. DePietri's decision, nothing to do with us.
Okay.
Or to do with not with us, but to do with the rules and regulations of the town.
And then again, it discusses, I guess, trails where there are trails. Again, it's currently not tying into the neighborhood, and I had some other comment on,
Because that was something that was asked,
Oh,
discussed
the-
with the abutters.
Early on.
And when they did the legal decision between you, I thought there was something written in there I read stating that they
Nope.
didn't want
No connections.
the connections to the subdivision existing to the new project. They wanted those trails kept away. So
But I
that's
mean, if
something
you're
that
s-
was done prior to,
right, and I don't know if that's something that's ever gonna change, if that's something, if brought up otherwise, is that something? you
because
would-
it's legal under the
The legal
legal
documents, so
decision.
that- yeah, they've made it.
They've made it so
agreement.
that's, so it
I
doesn't
mean, we'd
have
be
to
willing
be.
to change it if the neighbors
If
wanted to.
the neighbors and Mr. Petrie agree to change
Right.
it, that would be. But due that it's a legal issue the other way, I don't think that we could technically be involved in changing that because there's the legal paperwork that was done, you know, prior to
Okay.
the permitting of the use variance.
And again, I might be jumping around, because I know it gets brought up in other spots too, but I guess in this, there's the pond
Yes.
that's there, and then that's kind of there for the use of the development.
It's for the use of development, yep.
And-
And that's gonna be, so what we've decided to do is, basically make this, the pond, the tennis courts, the bocce courts.
Oh, grab the mic.
Excuse me, the mic behind you.
So the pond, the tennis courts, the bocce courts, and the boat dock will all be common area to both projects, so they can share it back and forth.
And isn't there been a discussion with recreation on something on the pond?
Yeah, we talked with Doreen about potential fishing derbies and stuff like that, and I said she could work that out with the management company that'll be managing the whole place.
And-
After.
And if
After, yeah.
there's, I guess, improvements to the pond, like you're saying, a dock or whatever, that, then you would need a permit. And that would be a permit, I would assume, from
Conservation.
conservation.
That'll go in
Yeah.
front of conservation for
Yep.
a thing for that.
So that would be that would be a separate outside of us.
Yep.
Right.
Righty. Massing. So I see a comment here from the planning board that the project is too dense. And I guess, you know, it's somewhat subjective, obviously.
Well, the only thing I would say to that is we have a letter from Mass Housing on the 180 units, and we have a use variance from the ZBA for up to 158 units. We're at 142, which is the max, and I think we might lose, you know, a few of those through conservation. So we're not even up to what the zoning board approved, you know, many, many months ago. And the neighbors were well aware of what that number was. They all saw the concept plans, as well as all the other departments.
And I guess the density could have, I mean, if it was done as somewhat proposed as 3 40B projects, you know, the density could have been.
We would have been-
Yep.
significantly greater.
540 units.
500.
584 units.
Yep.
Right.
Which is the major decrease in the density because we requested that he did the rental to eliminate the other 2 units. So that's a
Yep.
major decrease in those
Yep.
density.
Correct.
Yeah.
And the few units now, really, I don't think mean anything, where we get eliminated over 280 units the other way, which means a lot.
And again, you know, again, from the letter here, the 4 or 5 buildings as opposed to 2 buildings. And again, I think that's something that has
It
been
was-
like well vetted
It
over
was
the,
originally designed for the 4 or 5 buildings, but due to the changes and the neighbors wanting it moved away from their property and everything, it's when they came into the design of the 2
right,
buildings.
and that's my understanding
Am I
here,
correct?
is this is
could
after
have been-
2 years of
Right.
discussing and working with the butters and
And it
neighbors.
also
and-
goes towards the LID design,
Right,
which he was speaking to earlier.
right.
And you want to go vertical versus horizontal.
Exactly. In the direction, in fact, I've got a couple of 40Bs going right now. One, a 300-unit development. And what we had at one point, we had a series of buildings that were sprawled out across the site. And the direction that we got from Mass Housing was reduce your building footprints and go vertical. That's the direction we had taken. And, you know, with this, when I look at this plan and you look at the buildings, and again, they're not, in terms of single-family residentials, they're not small buildings. So the alternative, as we all know, is to have the 380 units or whatever buildings down below, which the board has decided not to do. So when you look at that footprint, that size building, it's up and away from the single-family residential up near 495. So again, as Bill said, we're thinking lid, compact. And as we get into the discussion on landscaping, we'll further elaborate on that.
Okay,
The next issue is on the traffic study.
yeah.
And basically, we've finished with the traffic study with the peer review. The Flag Road issue is going in front of the Board of Selectmen. Our traffic consultant and their traffic consultant, our peer review consultant, we've basically finished the traffic reports and where we are with all that. The consideration of local development on Oak Hill Road, which I live on, which I know of no development there, except for the 40B project there, there's only 16 units.
Right.
Which is no. And,
What's this about a roundabout? I don't,
that's it. So it's nothing, I mean, personally, I mean, as a member of the board, I don't think it's anything that involves this project.
Yeah, I mean, and that would be a
We've done
selectman
what
issue.
Our peer review consultant reviewed the traffic area in which he had to do. He did the roads that he had to do, Lovers Lane, Flag Road, Deerfoot, and stuff. That's what he had to do. And what they had to do on Route 9, but there's nothing, these other things they do not have to do. And I talked to Jason just the other day to make sure I was right. And he said they did the study on what we've given us, on what review roads they had to do.
okay, but again, on that point, I'm not too sure what even the point is about a roundabout. I don't even know where a roundabout would,
so it's nothing-
assuming that be a rotary, I don't know where that
I
would.
don't think,
Yeah, we're
No.
trying to
get
figure
into,
that out.
I'm not too sure on that. I know there was some initial conversation about, well, again, traffic light, and I assume that means on Route 9 or a flyover, for Route 9. And I know,
So
I think you addressed that in the past.
We've met with Mass Housing several times.
Mass
There's-
dot,
Mass Highway.
Mass
Yeah,
dot.
sorry,
Not Mass
Mass Dot,
Housing,
yeah,
right?
yeah, Mass Highway, sorry.
Gonna happen.
Yeah, basically, that's what they said, it's too close to 495, they are not gonna allow lights, and you could
that-
fly over, you'd need land on the, north side of Route 9 and on the, south side of Route 9.
And we do
There's
not
no
have
land.
any say in that at all.
I didn't think so. I mean, that's, again, what
And,
had
I
been
mean, it
discussed in the
was-
past.
If you remember, when we did the use variance, the discussion was that he would talk to Mass Highway about it, and he did, and that was something they brought up, and they said no.
It takes almost an act of Congress. I'm going through the same thing on my
Quite
other
literally, no?
40B. Oh, literally. There are criteria that have to be met, and there's one called a volume. Mass DOT bases theirs on the traffic volume warrant. And those numbers are ridiculous, never to be generated by a project of this
The
scale.
thing is, which I don't know if the board members remember it, but 2 years ago, Mr. Petrie wrote a letter to Mass Highway Department to see if he could get an access ramp onto 495 in the middle of Park Central
Yeah, I recall,
project,
yes.
which they turned him down also on that. He tried to do it, and they refused him to do that, which would
Yep.
have made a major difference,
Yeah.
but they wouldn't go along with it. So he did try to do that.
Now, again,
Another-
I understand, this letter from the planning board is dated January 4th. And this point here says to submit the peer review of the traffic study. I mean, I assume that's been
It's all done.
submitted.
All done, and
That's,
we're done with all that.
that's been
and
done.
everything. The other issue now under other, the suggestion on Foster O'Neill site inspection. This is a private site. It is not a site to be inspected by Foster O'Neill. The thing is, Foster O'Neill will approve the engineering drawing. Then, when the project is finished and the drawing is finalized with then Foster O'Neill will look at that.
Yeah, so
That's the same way we did the
Right,
Bob
Waterman
Ross's
will
project.
oversee
Waterman
it.
is the engineer of
Sure.
record, they have to certify that the project was
Right.
put in substantially in compliance with the plans. At the end, they would do as-built plans, and Fuss and O'Neill would at that point review the as-built plans to make sure that that it was done in compliance with the original approved plans.
Don't I get to say anything?
No.
That's what I was about to say.
And so then, I guess to that same extent, then next point is the drainage calculations, that will all be.
So those are where.
Part of the final.
Yeah, where,
Being done
I'd
now.
say we're 90-something% through the drainage calcs?
Can I answer this one?
Okay.
Thanks. So as part of the, as you folks know, as part of this process, typically the drawings that go before a ZBA for this type of project are pretty slim. What you see in the packet that was submitted to you, they're a little bit more involved than what you would typically get. Because we need to file with conservation, what we've done as part of this design, which was submitted to you folks, is we had done a hydrology analysis, which creates the stormwater basins and everything. When we get to the Conservation Commission and DEP, we are required under the stormwater, the state stormwater regulations, to provide hydraulic calculations as well. So it's going to be soup to nuts
Right, when we
drainage.
originally started this is something that was brought up by this board to make sure these drawings were done that way.
Yep.
So Foster O'Neill could get them
good.
approved in the regulations of the town of Southborough.
Yep.
And that was something that we did originally, which has been going on that way.
And from our,
Foster O'Neill tells me that they're, very satisfied at this point.
and Mr. Chairman, I think that was a good call, because what it also does is it makes our job easier in the end when we get to the point where we need to file with conservation.
Well, and the big thing about it is it may even make your job easier, but it's a lot better benefit for the town of Southborough.
Oh, absolutely.
There's no question. Because a lot of people don't know that under mass housing, technically, we're supposed to put a bid out to three engineering companies to review. But in the beginning, we talked to Mr. DePietri, and he agreed that, he would pay Foster O'Neill whatever their quote is to do it. Because I try to get that done because Foster O'Neill does work, and they've been with the planning board for many, many years, and they know what our rules and regulations are for this. So, and I think it's been, and we did the same thing with Bob Moss's property, and it was done the same way, which was very beneficial, and it was very time-consuming. It
Yeah.
worked out very well. It
Yeah.
really did.
Easy when they don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Right.
So I had a comment on number 4 there with the lighting plan. And I believe at one of the past meetings that was addressed, and I think even one of the members of the public had comment on or question on the type of lighting and the such.
We
so
have all that been
Yeah,
filed.
So
that's
that-
been already
The only
addressed.
So that's
thing
been a-
that will be done is when he files in front of the planning board for the lighting on the other part of the use variance, that's something he has to do for them on that part of the project. But the major project, we've seen the lighting poles, the design and everything, we've already got all that.
Right, so then I guess that's been the timing since the January.
Yeah, this might have.
This point I kind of like on number 5. I know we've talked a little bit about, different screenings and plantings, and I know that's been gone over a bunch, but in the detention basins, which I thought was interesting, I guess the planning board's looking to see using native wildflower mixes and New England wetlands, so is that
All over it.
something that
All
can
over
be
it.
incorporated? So-
Absolutely. We're all over it. We're doing it.
Right, and then conservation will also make comments on that, too.
Right.
One of the things is when we look at it, when we design our basins, and a lot of communities like these rectangular-shaped basins with fences around them, I detest them. I look at stormwater basins to, 1, serve the purpose for stormwater, and 2, to serve as a site amenity. You landscape them, they look beautiful, and they can still function. We avoid fences. We use vegetation to ward off kids from going into them.
And that was presented to us prior to when we talked about on the landscaping issues.
Yep.
It was presented to us then at that time also.
Be happy to do that.
And I guess that goes into number 7 there, the 40-foot, setback buffer. And I think we've talked about that. My understanding is that's
The 40-foot
adequate with the abutters.
was
and-
agreed to with the abutters. It's in the written agreement with them, and we've.
It's in the legal determination, right? It was
Right.
written in that, something that I had read.
Right, because that takes into account added plantings and so
Yep.
forth that you'll
Yes.
be.
And the other
yeah,
thing
into
that has to be realized is that is, with that is the thing is they removed the 5 buildings of the 40B in their backyard. So, that made a major change.
Right.
What we tend to do when we do these projects, and I don't mean to take up your time, Bill, I know you wanted the mic, but what we tend to do on these is we propose a landscape plan. But what we do is we'll go out, our landscape architect will go out to the site with a member from the board, be it the planning board or in the ZBA, and I understand the planning board is going to be
They're gonna
reviewing
review
landscaping.
the landscaping plan for the use variance
Yep.
property. We're doing the 40B.
Yep, so what we do is we take a look if there's a way to not have to do certain trees, or, you know, if the density shows that we're proposing a lot of trees, but it's not necessary, then we screen that back. If there are other areas where we need to enhance, so it kind of balances out in the end. So it's a site walk just to see where we can
It's
fill the
been-
voids.
The other thing is, I mean, you have a project of 100-plus acres, which has got all kinds of trees on it. So when it gets cut down and gets milled, then, you know, I mean, it'd be considered in our decision that we make a recommendation at that time that it's considered of the cutting of the trees are reasonable and done in a sufficient way to mandate, leave the ones that could be legally
Oh,
left.
absolutely.
And that's something that'll go in our decision.
Yep.
That we'll discuss at that time.
We're on board with that.
The other issue.
number 8?
I'm gonna take
Oh.
number 8, and the reason is to do with the 10% grade. And the issue of the 10% grade is they have to cross the brook behind the Red Roof Inn.
Intermittent stream.
And to cut that hill down to do it, you can't do it, because they can't touch the brook that way. So
Okay.
they have to keep, and number one, it is a private road, so it doesn't come under the regulations of the town for the 10% incline. So because they're going over the brook and everything, they can't lower that hill down
But
and do that.
Is the grade greater than 10% at that point?
No, it approaches 10%, and, are you folks, I know you typically, when you look at plans and profiles, you look at distorted scales. So you look at a 1 inch equals 40 horizontal, so a 10% grade looks like this.
And I've also walked the site and everything, so I know.
All right, I have done this before on other 40Bs to demonstrate what a 10% grade actually looks like. Can I take a minute and do that with this board, so you can actually physically see what it looks like?
Well, when we get
To that point on the waivers?
to the point on the waivers, then we'll
Absolutely.
discuss it then.
Absolutely,
But
but
I-
that was based on the stream crossing standards. So what we have here are conflicting interests between local subdivision rules and regs, and again, this is not a road, although it is designed, you know, with many of those requirements being met. In this case here, it's at 10%, and the reason that is because the state's requires for their stream crossing standards an openness ratio and a full bank width on the bottom. So that's what drove the grade in that
And
particular
the
area.
other thing is that when we go to do the decision on it, that we can put a condition in, because the major issue on the 10% is in the wintertime, people coming down that hill and be slipping and sliding the wrong way. So that'd be something that the developer is gonna be responsible for maintaining the plowing and the, what do you call of that property. So in our condition, we'll put something in there to enforce that issue.
Well, okay, but I guess, like, part of the reason I was even asking the question is the statement says, you know, the grading of the road is 10%, but then it says,
Percentage of it, not the whole road.
well, I'm just reading what the letter
Yeah, I
says.
know, well, that's not
So it says the grading of the road is 10%, and it should be between 6 and 10%, so.
So in
theory-
We didn't exceed 10, right?
No, so
So
in
you didn't
theory,
exceed 10, so is that kind of saying you're like at the 10, but be
you
careful
were
not
at
to
the
go
limit.
past?
yeah, we're right there.
Yeah.
So in theory, if we made it 6.95 or 6.99, I mean, or 9, it'd fall within the 6 to 10%. So again, when we get into the waivers, that's where I'll show you
But
what the 10%
that 10% is mostly problematic near the stream crossing is what the,
Yes.
okay.
Other than that, it's all to
I have nothing else in those points. Then there's I guess, a bunch of letters here on the last page. And again, I believe from the last presentation, you did discuss parking, number of parking spaces?
Right, I think you would address the fact that you had more spaces than what you needed. You didn't want to
You had more spaces
create
than
spaces where you didn't think you needed it.
But more spaces than what the 40,
From the
Mass
40
Housing
Right.
wanted.
Right.
They made more in their own.
Yep.
Mass Housing wanted less.
They wanted
parking.
less.
Correct.
Yep.
And so then B, loading facilities and service areas, is that, I guess that's being,
There's no.
mean,
is
dude,
there
see
no
that
Really
reason
not
for that,
applicable
is
to
there?
this type of
No, I
development.
mean, on a commercial building, you would see that.
Not on
That's-
a mo-
I know we haven't discussed that, but I mean, being residential, that's,
No, I don't,
No.
In the Bob Moss's project, on some of the buildings, when they did the location of the units and stuff, they showed an area where they would be going in and out of.
Yeah, we have
But it's not a, you know, it's
well,
just.
we have a back entrance on each one of the buildings where people will be moving their furniture in and out of, so they're not affecting the main
The
lobby.
other thing is that we went through and that we skipped, I want to back up on for a minute, is on the schooling issue, that in our decision, we write that Mr. Petrie sits down with the school department because of letting the buses go on private property. They have to make an agreement on
right.
that, which
That's
they
right.
did with Bob Moss's.
We met with them
And
today.
you'll be asked to
You're
put
right.
some loading areas there. So
We've got three school bus stops
I
on the
saw
on
on
the
that
plans.
thing, yeah, so
Yep.
that's something,
Oh,
but that's something in our condition that I just forgot when we were
Yep.
going through the school issue, that we wanna, you know, we'll do under decisions. So we'll go forward there, we got the,
C, on this here, then C, D, and E on page 4, I think are all things that we were
They've already
addressed
we've already
previously, even in
discussed
this letter.
Screening,
so-
walkways, landscaping.
F, the sign, or signage, and I don't know if
No,
we haven't really discussed that. I mean, personally, I'd like to see a sign.
Well, so we're in
Which-
that.
but I don't know how that
can show you on the
fits in with
plans where
everyone.
we're proposing them. They're being designed now. At the next meeting, we're gonna bring them, but basically, there would be a sign at the end of, the access road and Flag Road. It would have 4 panels on it, basically indicating the name of the project for the townhomes, the name of the 40B, and then the name of the assisted living over here. Once you get into the project, there'll be some smaller wayfinding signs, but then once you get back into here, there'll be a sign directing people into this apartment building and another one here. And we're also proposing a second kind of main pylon sign at the Park Central, which would again have the 4 project names on it. And
And
at
it-
the next meeting, we'll have the sign designs.
that's
And
the
have you
same-
discussed signs with the abutters? And
No.
was that part of the agreement? Or,
No.
So that's outside of that realm?
Never came up.
Again, like, I know and I'm drawing a blank on the name of it, the project off of Northborough Road.
The Avalon site, is it?
Northborough Crossing.
well, the issue is, the one in Southborough with
It's a
Bob
Sou-
Moss's,
Not, well,
we approved all the signs on Route 9 and everywhere
Right.
that he wanted, which would be the same as
but I
the
guess it's like,
project.
I mean, this is like a personal opinion, but it's like, the project off of Northborough Road where the actual apartments are in Marlboro, but the
Yeah.
entrance is
It is
Southborough,
in Southborough.
and there's no sign there.
No,
And
right,
I'm,
Fairfield.
and I'm constantly seeing folks, lock them up and, take a hard right in there because they all, oh, that's the entrance, because it's not delineated as such. I think a sign would help people, like traffic flow without slamming on the brakes. but
I
it's-
stand corrected, the sign designs are done.
Yep. Might go to what?
You're good.
So with that, and I appreciate that comment, because when we get into the waivers and we discuss sign illumination and interior sign illumination, I read that section of the bylaw as being signs affixed to buildings or within, illuminated signs affixed to buildings or within windows or doors. We're looking at this, and even though it's not affixed to buildings or within the windows or doors, we would be looking, when we get into the waivers, for relief, because the inside of the sign is going to be illuminated. And to the point where folks are gonna be jacking up on the brakes, that's one of the reasons that we're looking to have this illuminated. The one that Bill had referenced down on Route 9 prior to 495, that's the exact reason we're looking to do that.
And
to
in
prevent
the
that.
decision, there are other illuminated signs not on buildings in the town of Southborough on Route 9.
Yep.
When we get into the discussion on that. The tree issue, we did, the requirement per construction meeting. Construction hours that we work with you prior on the other property and Bob Moss's, which off the top, I cannot remember what they were, but there's something like from 7 in the morning until 6 at night
Yep,
during the week.
typical.
And from 8 in the morning till 1 or 2 in the afternoon on Saturday. So that's something that'll be done in our decision, it'll get
Fine.
done.
Yep.
That's fine.
Construction traffic onto Route 9, that's not a major issue at all, that's something that we'll make sure.
That's a
that
good
we
point,
do
that should,
in our decision, and the thing is that until an occupancy permit is granted, except for emergency access, because he needs to get the emergency access, which will be open on Flag Road for the police and fire department
I mean,
during construction.
I would assume emergency is gonna get to the site like as best or as quickly as possible if it's an emergency, no?
That's right, that's why it'd be flagged. The other thing is, in our decision, that they're going to have to make the connector road, is it off of Blackthorn?
Yeah, Blackthorn,
Yep.
under
Wherever
Blackthorn.
the fire road is going to be, up in there, that'll be something that in our decision will be made to be done first,
Okay.
you know, so that the fire, police have the access to the project.
Just for, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, just for clarification on that connection of Flag Road should only be open to emergency vehicles during construction. So Flag Road for access, that's what you're referring to, access to the site or egress? Because right now, the way the site is designed, it's got the traffic flowing from the site to Flag Road for egress.
But not during construction.
Gotcha.
That's not going to be done
Gotcha.
during.
I see what you're saying
During
now.
construction, except for emergency access.
Makes
So all the
sense.
access will go up Park Central?
Yep,
What?
Right.
All the access
In
will
and
go up-
out.
Right, for construction?
Yeah.
makes sense. Yep.
So that'll be
Gotcha.
something,
Make that note on the plan.
that'll be something in the decision.
Yep.
And
Okay.
as far as the issue on the end here of the Westboro Village and that stuff, I don't see any discussion.
I'm all set with, just back to the letters there, H with the, I guess delineating on the site, trees of 6 inches or larger. I think that would kind of, I don't think that would be very effective. I don't find that necessary, and I think you'd have a site plan with a lot of polka dots on it.
Yeah.
Well,
But that'll be something that'll be in our decision.
yeah, and they're gonna try to keep as many existing
Yeah,
trees
we
on there.
don't wanna cut down anything
Right,
that-
they're
that
gonna
we don't
keep
have to.
everything.
Yeah.
Being in our
Pretty much.
decision, we're gonna mandate that, you know, they're very cooperative in not cutting down trees that they don't have to, because if they do, they're gonna have to plant them again.
Well, right,
so.
right.
It's gonna
Mr.
cost them
Chairman-
more money if they cut them down, so if we do it the other way, that won't happen.
Yep. That's a typical waiver we request when doing subdivisions or site plans, because we'd be out there all day locating them.
Now, I noticed you cut down some trees, at Route 9.
Pruning, pruning.
Pruning, sorry. Is that just so you could get a sense on the sight lines coming out?
Visibility.
Okay, because it did really kind of open it up
Oh,
quite a
right, there was
bit.
a lot of brush and whatnot on it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, on,
Right at Route 9 at Flag Road.
Right past Wendy's.
That little,
oh, the
little-
other, the
The
that little
triangle.
triangle where the house used
yeah,
to be.
Yep.
yeah.
What about that?
He trimmed back and got rid of some of the scrubby
Yeah.
bush stuff.
But that's not part of this, that's not part of this.
No, I know, I
site.
just
No, but
was
it was,
making
when we realigned Flag onto Route 9, we wanted to make sure we had a, clear vision down there.
Right.
And that's his property, so he can even put signs on it if he wants, that's legal.
Right, but I was just saying, it's not part of the, it's not part
No,
of the
no, I
plan.
just was making a
Not at all.
comment. Okay, so I think we're done with that.
I don't have,
right?
I don't have any
Planning board
further comments or questions regarding the letter and your
Yep.
comments, so I'm good with that.
So we do waivers now?
Yes. Yes.
May I ask a question, please?
Yes.
Hi, Jesse Stein, member of the planning board. Can we just go back to residual site plan review
Yeah.
versus major site plan review?
Yes.
What's the difference, and when will it occur, and which one is it going to be?
You're going to get a site plan on the use variance for lighting, parking, sidewalks, and landscaping.
Well, we're
That's
gonna,
what's been determined by the zoning board, which basically is going to be on a regular plan, right?
so
Explain the plan that you're gonna file.
we're hopefully gonna file with Concom in the next 2 weeks. Once we've had 1 or 2 meetings through Concom and we know that the plan's not gonna be changing too much, we will be filing with the planning board with a full set of plans.
Will you be coming back to us prior to for approval?
Yes, once we're to,
Downward conservation.
correct, yep. And then, so we would possibly thinking end of March, probably by the middle of April, we'll be filing with the planning board.
Thank you.
Did that answer your?
It did.
Which, the other thing is, just so you know, that the 100% of all the plans, your board will get copies of it from us to review.
Okay. Second question, you went into quite a bit of detail on the points regarding the feasibility, especially the tax numbers. Who conducted the feasibility? Because it sounded like a feasibility study was in effect done. Who conducted it?
And is there a copy available?
I have a copy of what I did with tax numbers and the information which I've got right here. You can have a copy of that if you'd like.
I would.
Yeah, Karen has a copy of that.
And is that document the complete feasibility study?
Is what
That-
I did, yes.
That's the sum total of what's going to be done.
And it's not maybe as a major study would have to be, but it's within what we have to do. That needs to be done for the project.
Thank you.
But that's,
And the major issue on it is the taxes, which the abutters brought up, that, you know, how much money is gonna go to the schools and how much money is gonna go to the town. And those numbers are, you know, are right up there, there's no question about it. And it's the largest, housing project, tax-wise, being paid to the town, clean money at the end of it. Because very few projects that size have that amount of extra taxes being paid to the town do it. So that's a major issue with this project and benefit of the town.
It would be greatly appreciated if,
Say it again?
it would be greatly appreciated if you could give Hillary a copy to give to me.
but Lee, to note, this
Thank you.
was your feasibility.
Yes.
This was not something that was submitted by the developer.
Oh, no, I
So
didn't.
this is your,
I did, the only thing I got.
It's just not part of the
was
application,
tax-
it's not part of the-
tax information he had to give to Mr. Sabelli, the tax assessor.
You know, we asked the tax assessor to do the tax calculation
So he
on
did
the
the tax
apartments and the
calculations for us.
townhomes. So we did produce that to the town, but through the tax assessor.
Yeah, 'cause I
Okay.
had him, Sabelli, go after that, not us.
okay.
And get us the information to do it. The thing about it is, the biggest thing that was said by a couple of individuals downstairs is why we didn't approve this project a year before, so they'd have the tax money by now that they're looking for. Because that, you know, $1 million tax money is gonna be clean money for the town of Southborough, which is going to be the biggest amount to go to the town of Southborough on a private project. Yes, Mr. Morris?
Good evening, Don Morris on the planning board. First of all, I remember at the last ZBA meeting, the letters from the neighbors were brought up, and I mentioned our letter of January 4th, at which time you said that you were gonna go over this letter on today's meeting, which you did, and I really appreciate you going through it item by item and asking the questions and commenting as you did. I think that was very helpful. I'd like to go back. I would have raised my hand earlier, but I thought you were going to go through the whole thing and then take the questions. So this goes way back to the item number 2, application for a special permit for lower impact development. And I think it was you, Paul, that said, what is lower impact development? Was that your question? That's a very good question, because if you're being asked to waive something, you should understand what you're being asked to
Okay.
waive.
Mr. Morris, I want to hold you on that one item, because they are going to make that presentation next and explain the whole thing to us. And then if you have a question on that, we'll bring it up at that time, because they are going to make a thing about the impact development, how it goes and the whole issue, so we all know, because I don't know it either, to be honest.
Well, that's good.
So they're gonna do
That's
that
good to
very-
hear,
in a few
but,
minutes.
but my comment is that I don't think it's appropriate for this to be asked as a waiver, because I don't think that the ZBA has the authority to waive it.
I disagree with you
If you-
100%.
if you
because
look in section-
Mr. Morris,
No,
the same thing
I-
was done with Bob Moss's property,
Well,
and it was approved by this board.
right, because, well, I'm talking about the 40A portion of this project. 40B project, I'm in agreement that the ZBA has the authority to waive all of the zoning requirements. But for the 40A portion of the project, I don't believe, and I can tell you that the planning board doesn't believe that you have the authority to waive that requirement.
We do, because it's under a use variance.
Under lower impact development, section 174-13.3, it states that the planning board shall be the special permit granting authority for the issuance of a lower impact development special permit. And it goes on, it's 6.5 pages, all referring to the planning board having jurisdiction of the lower impact development zoning requirement. So how that is appropriate for you to waive a requirement under the planning board's jurisdiction is beyond me.
Because
And I don't
we
think,
took the authority away from you on the use variance, Mr. Morris.
and as you know, we don't,
Issues about it.
we don't agree with that.
I know you don't, but we have, and that's given us the right to do this. And that's, you know, discussion I've had with council and stuff.
Oh, right. Okay. I guess that's all I had on that, but again, I appreciate you going through this. And, one other thing relative to the lower impact development. I believe the engineer stated that he's only had done one of these for I guess, a 40B. And I can just tell you that for probably over 90% of the site plans that are submitted to the planning board, a lower impact development special permit is part of the requirement, goes through the public hearing process, and for all of the site plans that we've approved, they've also included a special permit that was approved for lower impact development. It caught my attention that if they've only had experience with one.
Well, I think he was saying that there's only had one that fully complied, Mr. Morris. I
Yes.
think the other ones you said partially complied, but not 100%.
Through the chair, what I stated was that in terms of having a true lid project, there are a number of criteria that have to be there for you to do that. Soils and topography. There's only been one project that I've done that I've been able to do as a true lid project, full lid project. No, and again, if I introduce a small section of road that's 6% or 7%, it's no longer a lid because I don't have a true lid, because I don't have my roadside swales, because I had to put in curbing and catch basins to prevent erosion. So that's what I meant. We've done a number of lid projects, done a number of 40Bs, and I'm in a big one right now as well. So just wanted to set the record clear on that.
Mr. Chairman, we'll be before the planning board. We're more than willing to talk about lid
At that time.
at that time. I mean, the plans aren't even here. You know, I don't know why we're even talking about it, to tell you the truth. I mean, once we get the plans, we're gonna file with them. We'll be glad to talk about it as much as they want to, as to where we do comply and where we don't and why we can't. And if they have a better idea, we'll be glad to listen to it.
All right,
No, that's very good, and the reason we're talking about it is because it was in our letter, and it was a very high priority. It was number 2. And I'm glad that you cleared up that business about a true lid and a lid. But I'll just invite the ZBA to please read that section on lower impact development, because if you're being asked to waive it, you should understand what you're waiving. And I don't believe the term true lid is anywhere in this zoning section. So, thank you.
The other, you brought up, Mr. Morris, in the beginning about the letters. In the meeting that we had the last time, all the letters we received at that meeting from the abutters and neighbors were all on the Deerfoot Flag Lovers Lane Road issue. All those letters were sent and filed with the Board of Selectmen's office. So they have them all. And the other issue, so everybody knows that, if everything's right, that on March 16th, is that a Tuesday night? On March 16th will be the meeting with the Board of Selectmen on Deerfoot Flag Road with our consultant, which they're using the consultant, he's agreed to do it. Mr. Petrie's agreed to pay for it, and Mrs. Gallagher has been working with him on,
It's a Wednesday. March 16th is a Wednesday.
then, did Karen go? She was just, it's either, excuse me,
No, it's a Wednesday.
is it the 15th? Well, maybe you're meeting on a Wednesday for some reason. Because of, yeah, because I know that she told me tonight
I don't think it's posted yet either.
that she said that, I thought she said the 16th, so it's either the 15th or the 16th of March. The 15th would be Tuesday. And I thought Karen was still here, but,
She is.
all right, she'll be back in a minute, and we'll ask her, because but we do have that date, that it's gonna be one of those 2 days, and they're presently working with Jason, the consultant, going over the issues, And what do you call it? But just so you know, that those letters were all for that, and they were all given to the Board of Selectmen. And any other letters that are coming in for that are being directed to the Board of Selectmen's office, not ours.
Right, but in the big picture, and this has been shared with me by some of the neighbors, that approving the plan, dumping the traffic onto Flag Road creates the problem, and your jurisdiction or your concern ends at the edge of Flag Road.
Except for the entrance. The entrance is,
Selectmen pick up the jurisdiction at that line.
but they can't have anything to do with the entrance.
It's perceived that approving that creates the problem and dumps it into the selectmen's lap to solve, where if it was a combined effort, then the problem could be reduced, and therefore the solution to the problem would also be a lesser effort.
No, it's wrong because of the fact that on the traffic study, everything was done, it's all legal, it's all been approved and done. The only thing that is, we have recommended to go to the Board of Selectmen as far as benefiting to make the road better, which is up to them. But the entrances and stuff, the neighbors are the ones that created the entrance to go directly on Flag Road instead of going through their subdivision and everything. So that was originally where the roads were gonna go, and then it was all changed, which there's no issue. But the traffic going on Flag Road at that point has been approved by the traffic consultants and everything. So the only issue that we have on Flag Road, it's nothing. It's the thing that I brought up, my board, to go to the Board of Selectmen because the neighbors had asked to do certain things, which we couldn't do, but the selectmen could. And all this board is basically doing is just ask the Board of Selectmen to review and look at it. And it's their thing, but it has nothing to do with the entrance of this project at all. It's to do with the traffic on that road. Excuse me, Ms. Gallagher, did you tell me the 16th or the 15th is the meeting with the selectmen? He doesn't know.
It's the Tuesday.
So it's the 15th. All right, so it'll be the 15th of March, and you can look it on the calendars or whatever and the programming to find out what time it's gonna be, just so the abutters all know. All right? Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Wendy DeMichaelis, 15 Bantry Road. I just have a question. Mr. DePietri mentioned that you think you'll have the plans mid-March to early April. Does that mean that the MIPA review will be completed by then as well?
When we receive the plans, they will be reviewed from Foster O'Neill. Is that
She's
correct?
talking about
No,
the
MIPA.
state.
What?
The MIPA filing.
So we have the first round of comments from MIPA already.
Okay. So your estimate for the mid-March, and April will include whatever comments they had?
The filing with conservation will incorporate the comments that we feel are necessary for MIPA. within the filing.
The technical issue with this MIPA thing is, this has never been done before with this board. This is the first time it's ever had a project that created this. So it's there's some technical issues we have to find out a little bit more about. But it's never been done in the town of Southborough for a 40B project of any sort that we've done.
Okay.
The other thing that's going to happen is, we need to discuss, because you're saying in the end of March. So we need to get an extension, because we have the extension for the 30th of March that was done at the last meeting.
Yep.
So if we're not gonna be meeting, when would you like to do the
Push
extension?
it till the end of April.
You have it on there.
Yeah, Karen, I'll fill
All
out
right,
for
so what's
release.
gonna happen now is, if the board agrees or disagrees with me, let me know. They're going to go to conservation, which will probably take 2 meetings, which will put them into about the 3rd week of March. And after those 2 meetings are done, then they'll come back in front of us. And in the meantime, we're gonna review the drawings or anything, unless there's any engineering changes by conservation.
29th,
Which technically, I don't know if there will be, because of with the first phase they've gone through. And if there isn't, and then we will approve at that time the project, and then we'll start working on the decision part of it. Because everything else is presently done.
Okay, so how long will the decision part of it take? I'm just trying to.
What?
Will the decision part be like one meeting, or is that a couple of meetings? What's?
The
how
decision
long?
part will be done in a public meeting, but no resident discussion at all. It's strictly, but it'll be done in an open meeting, which, if you remember, it was done that way with the use variance,
Okay.
where we had an open meeting, but there is no
But
discussion.
it may take a couple meetings, because
What?
it may take a couple meetings to go through some of the conditions and stuff that we place on it.
Right, well, I want to take and put on the March 24th meeting, that be our next meeting with you,
Okay, what time?
because,
Well, I think you set the other topic at 7:30, correct?
my cousin's thing is at 7:30, and I think just to make it specify, we'll probably go 8:30 this time. So but maybe,
Karen, did you say there was something else on the agenda
No.
that night?
No, but I wouldn't go 8:30, because I don't think that Bartolini.
you gonna take that
building-
one to 8 o'clock
No,
then?
yeah, I would, absolutely.
All right.
Well,
So-
Karen said there was one other thing that night.
What?
It's just Bart,
Yeah.
The 24th, but you have the
Yeah.
23rd is another.
correct.
23rd
But on
is
the
another-
24th, there's nothing else.
No, and
Oh, then that's not
as of tomorrow, there will be one other item on the 24th meeting.
That's what I'm saying, so there is gonna be
That
some.
is going to be a sign thing on Route 9 that's going to be in front of us, which went in front of the planning board Monday night and got done, and they haven't sent us the decision yet, but they will
So
be.
should we do that
But,
after?
excuse me, Mr. Morris, that wasn't, you guys did okay that, and you're writing a decision, a recommendation for us on the sign for Route 9 that was in front of you Monday night? Right, so that's gonna be, they're gonna file that with us tomorrow, and then whenever, the planning board's got a month to get us their recommendation, and then we will take and put that on the meeting of the 24th also. So we're going to do my cousin's thing at 7:30, because you've already done that.
Right.
We will do the
Park
the sign issue at 8 o'clock, and do Park Central at 8:15.
You have an extra
Okay.
pen? Mine just
All right, and hopefully that night will be the major discussion of all approval for Park Central, and then we'll start the discussion of the conditions. Because then we'll only have, 3 or 4 weeks to get that up and done, which will be done with town council and Megan, not town council, myself, Megan, and Mr. DePietri's attorney, Angelo Cazzaro.
Okay.
So that'll be, hopefully, so it'll be done in that period of time. All right? Yes, sir.
Just one point of clarification on the traffic thing going down Flag Road, and the challenge that is now produced is actually been created by a decision of this board. This traffic was originally supposed to go out Park Central onto Route 9. It was then moved to Flag, and you had the opportunity to return all that traffic to Route 9, and you chose to go the other way. So now we're going in front of the ZBA to fix a road that didn't have a challenge, that it was created by this board. And I just want on the record to say that you had the choice to move this traffic back to Route 9 where it belonged, and you sent it the other way.
No, we did not.
You did.
You're wrong.
I'm not wrong.
The
You had the choice of turning
Highway
out Flag Road and
Department
turning it right.
refused it, sir.
No.
And we've discussed it a
Oh,
million
let's get
times.
let's get this on the record, because what was said publicly is they refused Park Central, and they required it to come back to Flag Road 650 yards back. They did not say all that traffic couldn't go back onto Route 9 from that point. If that's different, please say it now.
It could not go on to Route 9.
It is different. The original plan had the traffic going through Blackthorn, Tara, and Bantry.
The
That was
original
the
Trump,
original
way back when
design.
it was on the other side of the lake, when it was just the 180 that was filed for the 40B, was on the other side of the lake and went out Park Central, and it was denied for traffic on there. Going out on Flag, when it came through, and we came back to Flag Road and the entrance that's there is now, the opportunity, all that we got from said from MassDOT is it couldn't come out Park Central, we can come out Flag Road and go on Park. So if you're saying that that's not the case, we're required by MassDOT to sacrifice the safety of our residents to satisfy their traffic studies and their requirements on Route 9. That is highly unacceptable.
There
So
is no
which is the
sacrifice
case?
of safety at all.
I disagree. We've already done that.
The traffic
So-
consultants have already told us that.
But the traffic consultants have did it on the study from here. I want to just answer the question for me now. Everything that's been said publicly said all we had to do was go back. We could go back to Flag Road and get on Route 9, and that was all that the state required. If that's not the case, the only reason we were doing the Flag Road access the other way was as a request of the developer. That's what's on the public record. If that's different, please state it now.
Not on the public record.
It is on the public record. We can go back and watch the tapes. The reason that we went back there, the only reason we went there is he wanted access to the town. He felt it was a better thing. There is no requirement anywhere else. We talked about this that the project on Route 9 down in Westboro on the Honda station has one access on 9.
I'd appreciate it if you show me where it is, because I've
I'll go back
not
to
missed
the
any of
tapes.
these meetings and been involved in it, and it's never been done. And Mr. Petrie, do you?
No.
So is there
You met with Mass Highway on this. And Jennifer.
Is there a
the town
requirement for
planner
Mass
also did
Highway
with you.
that has to go back onto Flag? Or will Mass Highway allow it all to go to Route 9?
Excuse me, you need to use the mic, ma'am.
I think, just to try and clarify, I think he's talking about when the new access point comes out onto Flag, Mass DOT just said that it couldn't come in and out Park Central, but it said it could come in and out of Flag Road. I think he's talking about the being able to use the left-hand turn coming out of the new Park Central exit and entrance. Is that?
That's correct.
Does that help clarify?
What do you mean the new Park Central entrance?
Where the new access road hits Flag Road.
Right.
The left into town was not required by MassDOT.
No, it was not.
Okay.
It was required by me.
That's what I was saying.
It was a deal that I cut with the direct abutters to alleviate the traffic from going on Bantry, Blackthorn, and Tara.
You made an agreement that it was, and I haven't read the agreement in a while, but the agreement was to come out Flag. There was no argument about the left
The
turn.
agreement is crystal clear. For me giving up access to Bantry,
Blackthorn.
Tara, and Blackthorn, I would use the access road, but I would be allowed a left and right turn. That was the deal.
And that's with
And
6
that's
abutters.
why
That's
it-
not with the rest of the town.
And
So
that's
that you
why
bring
the
it down.
design of the roadway was changed and done that way when you did that, because of the agreement
When
made.
we agreed to not put in the 580 340Bs, that was the agreement that was cut with the direct abutters, to not use those roads, but I would bring all the traffic down the access road, and I would take a left on Flag or a right on Flag.
And that was agreed upon with the board to do with the use variance also.
But that's with 6 abutters. That's not with the rest of the town. And that's kind of a lousy deal for the rest of the town. That should have just went out to the state.
It's the thing
So,
our board has agreed and voted on, so it's done.
You're making my point. You have agreed to make that adjustment rather than send the other way. So the safety issue that is now on Flag Road was voted to and agreed to by this board.
But
That's the point I'm making. Just
You're
want that
assuming
on the
there's a
record.
safety issue.
Excuse me?
You're assuming there's a safety issue.
There is no safety issue.
And there is
Respectfully,
no-
Mr. Eagle,
our
if there was no
professional-
safety
You
issue-
are not a professional, and I'm not a professional. We rely on the peer review, and the peer review traffic consultant says that it is not a safety issue.
But yet we're having a meeting to possibly cut down 35 trees. I'm done. Thank you.
That's because you people recommended it. That's why you're an individual that recommended this stuff. That's why we sent it to the Board of Selectmen for you. Because you wanted to eliminate the parking on Flag Road.
You will not see me with any comment on there personally about cutting down any tree or any adjusted to Flag Road. The only comment you'll see from me is all the traffic should have went out to Route 9 where it belongs. You can check any tape on that. I certainly did not ask for anything to happen on Flag Road except no traffic on it. Thank you.
The other butters did.
All right.
So, okay, we're going to go forward. It's 11 o'clock. You want to go forward with the waivers? Let's go. Get them done.
Sure.
Megan's used to doing these meetings until midnight.
She looks tired. You look like I feel.
Excuse me, before we forget, we make a motion to approve the extension to April 29th, not the meeting, the extension of the 40B project, of the, what do you call it, until April 29th at 7 o'clock. Go ahead, what?
So you want to, do you want to extend the application to April 29th?
Yes.
The hearing will be March?
We're gonna, that's a different thing. This is the application that we're gonna extend.
Right, I'll make a motion to extend the public hearing for the Park Central project.
No. We want a motion to extend
The public hearing.
No, not the
We're
public
making a
hearing.
motion to request that the applicant extend, I believe, no?
Yes, the application.
We're
extension.
we're making a motion to request the applicant to extend.
No, the applicant has already, so
Yeah,
we're.
we've got it right here, I'm signing it.
So then
Right.
there's
So
nothing.
we're making a motion to
accept the
to accept
extension
to
to the
accept its
29th.
extension.
Right.
Okay.
Right,
Second,
I'll second
okay,
that.
all in favor? Aye. We're going to make a motion to continue, not yet, 'cause we're not done yet. When we're done, then we'll continue. the
I'd like to
public
make a
hearing.
motion to continue.
No, we have to finish it first.
Okay. Let's
All
continue.
right,
You
Mr.
guys wanna do it at the
Petrie,
next meeting?
you want to go forward with the waivers?
Well, I want to, but there's one, two,
There's several, and it could open
Three.
up a bit of discussion.
4 pages.
Well, there's a couple of them that I think have to be done before our next meeting.
Okay.
There's the ones I've read
Yeah, you're right.
that are going to be going to conservation.
Yep.
So they should be done prior to that, I would think.
Yep. Okay.
So it you take care of those, and are there any others that the board agrees need to be done before then, or that you agree?
Okay, so if you want to start, Mr. Chairman, we can
Work backwards.
work backwards. Story of my life.
All right, that'll work.
So again, as we begin, the applicant does reserve the right to amend or supplement the request or to make additional waiver requests prior to the final decision of the comprehensive permit. So with that, the waiver that we're looking is for Chapter 170 of the Town Code, the Wetlands Protection, waiver from compliance with the wetland regulations, the integrated roadway and drainage infrastructure that will service the affordable housing and townhouse components, as well as the approved density of the townhouse area, will not allow for full compliance with the town's local wetland protection bylaw, Chapter 170 of the Town Code and the Wetland Code and the Wetlands Regulations revised as of November 19th, 2015, promulgated thereunder. The applicant can and will comply with the requirements of the Wetlands Protection Act, MGL, Chapter 131, Section 40, and its regulatory scheme. Waiver from the requirements of Chapter 170 and regulations thereunder is requested so as to allow for the integrated infrastructure and density as approved and directed by the board in the use variance decision.
Can you explain that one a little better? I'm sorry, I don't.
So basically, what we're looking at is with the variance that was granted by this board to allow for the single-family type of, and duplex type of housing out here, in lieu of the 2 additional 180-unit buildings. Basically, what it has done is rather than taking all those units, compacted them and gone vertical, we have created single and duplex units, which has allowed us to go, caused us to go horizontally. So with the decision from the board allowing up to 158 units, and as we indicated earlier, we're somewhere like 142, 144, or whatever it is, we're somewhere around that right now. To support that density as approved by the board, we're going to be working in areas in close proximity to the wetlands. We do have a couple, as we alluded to earlier tonight, a couple areas where we are proposing some wetland crossings and meeting the stormwater standards, but some of the improvements are going to be proposed within the 20-foot no disturb zone.
All right,
But we're meeting
But
this
fully,
state.
but fully complying with the Wetlands Protection Act.
all right. Questions from the board on this?
I don't really
I've got some answers.
I think it's, I have no question.
Right, the thing is, I've done some research, and we've done it, conservation has done it with Bob Moss's project in 2 areas where he had to go within the 20 feet. And because the 40B, the issue here is because of the fact that if it was 3 40B projects, they'd be all over the 20-foot area.
Right.
So I think we
It's a
should,
compromise.
in the agreement of the compromise of the rental forest and everything, in the approval of what we did on the use variance, that we should agree to give them the waiver on this. When they go to conservation, they also I don't think he'll give them a hard time because they have approved it prior to this project, 40Bs, and regular developments. I've 8 of them that I've come up with that have been given waivers for
Yeah,
this.
so there's precedent on this.
So I think if the board would make a motion to approve this.
But yet it is still reviewed by, it still is
Yes.
reviewed
Oh, yeah,
by
it's
Con-
going in
yes,
front of
yes.
them
Subject
next
to a
week.
full filing
next
under the
couple of
Wetlands
weeks.
Protection Act.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to accept that.
Okay, a
I'll
second. Any other discussion? Any other discussion? Okay, we'll make a motion. All in favor? Aye, okay.
So go through the rest on the 24th.
Well, anything else that you need?
I went through the list, no.
Are you sure?
Okay, go through it, I'm positive, but go ahead. Most of it's,
Yeah, I mean, this is, again, I look at water resource protection, that's part of our, we're gonna be doing that as part of our filing with the WPA. Actually, if we could just hit that one in stormwater.
Well, let's try it, I mean.
Okay, sure.
we'll-
So, section 174-13.4, water resource protection, and an NOI will be filed with the Concom, including an operation and maintenance plan and a stormwater prevention pollution plan. The developer will file with the federal EPA for NPDES permit. So in terms of water resource protection, there's gonna be enough documentation to protect the downstream waters with the permits that will be issued.
So what is the effect of the waiver that you want?
Basically, that water resource protection requires, I believe, a special permit. It requires additional permitting. So what we're looking to do, because of this process, is looking to have this covered under this process in lieu of going for another permit. 174.
So this requires a special permit, you said?
I believe so, and I will confirm that right now. Yep, uses requiring special permits. Yep, the following shall be allowed only if granted special. No.
This discussion, has it been with Foster O'Neill also? On this?
sorry?
It's with Foster O'Neill on this issue of the protection of the water and everything?
I didn't understand the question.
Well, he says that the way he read this, that is to do with go ahead.
This actually is a special permit process under your authority. So basically, rather than go through that special permit process, we're looking to have that covered under this process here, the comprehensive permit and the variance process.
That's what your waiver is requesting?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions?
I don't have any questions.
Do you understand it?
Yeah. Pretty straightforward.
Everybody does? All right, we gonna make a motion then?
I'll make a motion to accept, I'm not exactly sure on the
The-
wording of it.
The numbers.
You have a number of the waiver that it is,
The number is section 174-13.4, water resource protection. And then we're looking at another one, stormwater and erosion control.
Yeah, but let us do this one first.
Sure.
So we make a motion?
I'll make a motion to grant the waiver for section 174-13.4. Is that what you said?
Yep.
Mhm.
Megan has it
Yep.
down anyway. so-
Okay.
Right, Megan, you all set with that? Okay, Karen, does, Paul?
Second?
The second? Okay, discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Okay, now the
Go forward,
stormwater.
sir.
So the next one would be section 174-13.5, stormwater and erosion control. A notice of intent will be filed with the Concom, including an operation and maintenance plan, which is both during construction and long-term, and a stormwater pollution prevention plan. The erosion sediment control and general construction phase-in plan will be included in the submission to the Conservation Commission. Erosion sediment control barriers will be staked and monitored. So in looking at that one, administration. So in this case, the Conservation Commission shall be the permit granting authority for the issuance of a stormwater and erosion control permit. So looking at their wetland regulations, what we just acted on initially, and where they would be the issuing authority there, it would seem that, again, we'd be looking to, based on that that previous, the very first waiver we were looking for, that our design would comply with the state stormwater standards and the Wetlands Protection Act.
Right, the thing is, I don't know if the board understands, but I don't clarify the board that they do, that under the town rules and regulations, which is stormwater, the drainage thing, is something that we have the authority, where if it's a state rule and regulations, we do not have the authority. On Bob Moss's project, when we did it, we had the authority and we did waive it for us. And on Bob Heavey's project, we did the same thing up there with that one. So,
Okay.
So you're saying this is consistent?
what?
You're saying this is
Consistent with what
consistent?
we've done before.
Prior, and, you know,
All right, so,
and it's something that we only can do on a 40B project.
Yep.
all right,
And
so,
where it's, you know, the thing is, the biggest thing about it is, and my consideration is that if it was going to be public property down the road, and that the highway department would be responsible to maintain it and everything after, then I think there would be a condition that should go under stormwater management with conservation. But where it's not going to be maintained by the town, it's going to be maintained by you, and there's some things we can put in our conditions, and most likely some things that conservation could put to us for a
Most certainly.
condition.
Yep.
Would maintain it and take it, where if it was
Yep.
going to come through the town responsibility, then my personal thing would be that we would not give a waiver to it, because then the town would be responsible, so their construction would be responsible to do it.
So are you saying conservation will still look
Review
at
it.
this, still see it?
yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah,
So
they'll-
basically.
Oh, yes.
If there's, I mean, is that something like tonight we went through, if, you know, the planning board had some comments and questions, if that's something?
Well, the thing is, on this
Would conservation
particular,
still give us comments and questions then?
well, somewhat,
If
because of this
necessary, or-
issue, we're granting the waiver, but in lieu of granting the waiver, we're gonna request that when you do go to conservation, it is discussed.
Yes.
With them. It's
Mr.
not
Chair-
ignored.
Right, Mr. Chairman, as part of the requirements under the Wetlands Protection Act, we have to submit an operation and maintenance plan. And with that, like I said, as part of that, and then along with, we'll also include a draft stormwater prevention pollution plan as well. And what that covers is everything during construction and the maintenance of the stormwater system following that. Okay, so after the site is built out, they have a certificate of compliance, the homeowners association is going to be on the hook to have a contractor address the operation and maintenance plan,
And
cleaning of catch basins.
That is going to be something that we're going to discuss in the future on one of our conditions, to make sure, which we did the same thing prior to this, that there is a thing done on a maintenance program to maintain, because that water is going to leave that project and come into the town in
Right.
different areas. So we need to make sure it's done properly,
Right.
so that'll be maintained. And like I said, be prior to this, if it was something that the town was gonna take over after, then the whole thing would go the other way. It wouldn't go along with granting a waiver. But I think, and the other thing is that on these waivers that request that there is, when you go to conservation, there will be a discussion, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So, does the
All right.
board agree?
Yeah,
I'm agreeable.
I'm
I have
agreeing
no
with
idea
almost
how
like
to,
conservation.
how to structure a motion.
All right, so,
Excuse me, 1 minute. Yes, ma'am?
I just have Wendy DeMichaelis, 15 Bantry Road. I just have a question. Are these the same waivers that will be in front of the Conservation Commission? And do both boards have to approve it? Or I just,
We're waiving it over the regulation of the zoning, of the Conservation Board. Due to this town regulations, we have the authority to grant waivers that they don't have to do this. Conservation, if it's state issues, then we don't have the authority. It has to be done by conservation. But these are issues that have been done prior to this project with conservation before. It's nothing new being done.
okay, thanks.
And like I said, the major issue is if it was going to be a town road and town parcel, it would be a major issue, but it's not, because it's going to be privately owned and maintained.
privately made.
And we're gonna put it, it'd be into this something, in the decision of control, that it's done the right way.
All right, so I can try to make a motion, see, so section 174
Dash
-13
13
-5,
stormwater and erosion.
stormwater erosion waiver.
Yep.
Second?
Second that?
I'll second that. I guess it's 13.5, not
Yeah,
dash
13.5.
Megan, you got that right?
You said it was dash.
Well,
Oh,
whatever.
dash, oh, I'm sorry.
It's in the decision.
Well, I
Dash
know, I just wanna
dot.
keep
It's
this on the
after
up and up.
11.
Man, I hear ya.
Okay.
I was
Megan-
out
Just
at
show that
night.
I'm paying attention.
The thing is, just so you know, Megan has the copy of the waivers. and
Okay.
She's checking them off as we go, so we
Okay.
have enough, okay?
All right, so as long, right, so
Right.
we got the wording right. All right,
Need a
so
second?
we had a
I'll
second.
second that.
Okay, any discussion?
Nope.
All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, what's next?
Nothing.
I think we're all.
Sure?
Yeah.
Got a few more minutes, what the
I'm
heck?
getting texts
Mr.
already.
Chairman,
All right.
All right. Okay,
Finish
so
on the 24th.
we're
Okay.
going to continue it until,
Thank you.
got to make sure we have the right month. It's March 24th,
24th, yes.
All right,
Sounds
so
good.
okay?
we'll make a motion to continue the public hearing till March 24th.
Okay, I have
What-
just one question before we do that. Ms. Gallagher, do you have any questions or any comments you want to make before we do that? All right, okay, you're all set, thank you. All right, any other, excuse me, any other comments from the neighbors?
Nope.
No, all set? Okay,
All right, I'll make a motion to continue the public hearing on Park Central till March 24th
yeah.
at
At 8:15.
8:30.
Oh,
We put the other one in between.
8:15 is what we said.
At 8:15, Megan, 8:15.
Put the sign guy in there.
Yeah.
7:30.
Out cold.
8 o'clock. It's at 8:15. Yeah, Bartolini's gonna be 8:15, I think. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
So we're,
Yeah, we went to 8 o'clock on the next one.
Just hold on, yeah.
8:15, I have Park Central, we talked about that.
Yeah, 8:15.
yeah, we had said
Yeah.
8:15.
All right, so I'll make a motion to continue the public hearing on Park Central till the 24th of March at 8:15.
I'll second it.
Discussion?
Any discussion, all
No
in favor?
discussion.
Aye.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Wait, you want to
Appreciate it.
close it? Want to close the?
And I need a motion that we close the
Yep.
meeting.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Okay.
All in favor?
I'm in
Yep.
favor.
Aye. I
Okay.
thank you very much for staying as late, and I want to thank Megan and Karen for
Yeah, thank
being
you.
so late. And Karen,
you,
you come
ladies.
in late tomorrow morning, because I'll tell
Thank
Mark.
you.
I will
Yeah,
do
thank
that.
you.
Thank you. Good night.